What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. This week, I am joined by my good buddy, Uncle Curtis. Uncle Curtis is a Michigan native, and I met him, like I do a lot of you, on Instagram, and he had some very positive vibes for me the first time I ever did some out-of-state hunting over in Illinois, and he was right. I was successful, and he was one of the only people that thought I was going to be successful, and I sincerely appreciated that. And he and I have, sort of kept in touch over time, and once I got this thing fired back up, I realized I wanted to have Curtis on and talk about, his successes and adventures here in Michigan, and a little bit of his adventures out of state. He has done Michigan and Indiana, and he's hoping to branch out again a little bit further this year even. And so I wanted to have him come on and tell some stories. And man, did he have some nuggets. Some real nuggets of joy in this long episode. This is the longie. We went through a lot of his Michigan trials and tribulations and his Indiana extravaganza. So I hope you all enjoy this podcast coming up next with Uncle Curtis. Thanks. This episode is brought to you by Beefcakes. Beefcakes is not your traditional gym. If you want to lay down between bench presses, go ahead. You want to pee outside? That's fine. Just be mindful of my neighbors. Do you want to not clean up your dumbbells when you're done with them? Go right ahead. Just be prepared for some ridicule. Do you want a chocolate fountain? Do you want a nacho bar? Perhaps you'd like to sit down on one of our fine leather couches and play NHL 22 on the Xbox. Cool. That's great. If you're tired of a traditional big box gym and you still want to get that pump but maybe have a snack, Beefcakes is the gym for you. Come see us today at Beefcakes.
Face. Off.
Man, as a hockey guy, like I grew up playing hockey my whole entire life, the idea, the symbolism behind a face-off, the mano a mano, the culmination of all your hard work and the intensity when it matters most, truly symbolizes the pursuit of wild game, whether it's deer or turkey or elk or whatever. You have practiced your whole season or your whole off season for that single defining moment, whether it's on the ice or whether it's against, your formidable opponent, that mature white-tailed deer or that wily, can't seem to figure out turkey. I struggle with turkeys, if you can't tell by my nervous giggling. Face-off e-bikes, formerly known as stealth hunting e-bikes. Same great bikes, just a brand new name. A little rebranding had to occur to sort of identify themselves, clearly and on the internet. But it's the same great brand. It's the same innovation. It's the same everything that you had at Stealth Hunting e-bikes, just with a new name. These bikes are built and shipped from Michigan, so that is near and dear to my heart. By actually tearing apart and assembling these bikes, he's got this access to replacing parts and creating the perfect mobile to climb these hills. And I am not a slender fellow. I do like my sugars and I like my fried foods, but I'm moderately healthy. I'm 6 foot and I'm over 200 pounds, and I have been putting my bow hunter to the test here in Michigan because I knew that this bike could help me in those scenarios where I needed to climb a hill, whether it be a chisel-plowed cornfield or just some terrain here on my private properties in Michigan. I knew that it could get me from point A to point B, and I have been testing it, and it absolutely gets me where I need to be quickly and quietly. It was incredibly easy to get this bike to my house and do the final assembly in my garage. The entire lineup, honestly, is geared to climb these hills. Custom configured drivetrains and custom fabricated parts. These bikes are suited for the steepest terrain. Now, I haven't done anything crazy like test them out at Attack or any ski hills, but I've seen Dieter do it. Smallest front chainrings in the industry, offering the same motors and batteries as the biggest names in the industry, but at a fraction of the cost. So listen, if you want to make every hunt count, make sure you're using Face Off Hunting e-bikes. All right, welcome back to another episode of Angel Road Outdoors, the podcast. This is episode 20. Fuck. This is episode 25. That was so good right off the bat, and then I just fumbled it. Episode 25. I am joined via Zoom by somebody that I would call a confidant, because he put a lot of faith in me. My first out-of-state hunting experience, and we interact a little bit over Instagram. Curtis Mercier. How you doing, Curtis?
I'm doing well, man.
Thanks for joining me today. Do you prefer Curtis or Kurt?
Funny you say that. I have my wife and multiple friends of mine who call me Kurt, and instead of Curtis, just to get under my skin, and I always act like I don't know who Kurt is.
Got it. It's like, loud and clear. You are Curtis.
Second personality.
So, I've had a person ask me before if Brett was short for something, and I don't think it is. In my case, Brett is not short for anything, but sometimes I never know if, there are occasions where I never know if somebody's name on Instagram is what they want to be referred to by, if they have a nickname, if there's a shortened version that people prefer. So I just want to be respectful. So Curtis it is.
Curtis it is.
Curtis it is. So Curtis, if I remember correctly, you told me the first time I ever went to Illinois that I was going to be successful.
I did.
You were like a little Buddha or a little prophet. You were right. It worked. So thank you for that.
I have a tendency of predicting others' future and trying to be confident in my own and falling flat on my face occasionally. So I like to try to up my odds in the old whitetail guessing game.
Well, you are sharing positive energy, and hopefully if you believe in karma, it will come back to you. So in that positive way. Well, thank you for that, because you were correct. I did go to Illinois the first time ever and shoot a buck, and it was successful. And I was very happy that you told me that it was going to work. And I've sort of followed you on Instagram since then and watched your adventures, again, just through Instagram. And it seems like you're quite the hunter. First of all, why don't you take a second and let everybody, or a few minutes or 20 minutes, whatever you want to do, introduce yourself, tell everybody where they can, find you on social media, and then kind of just introduce who you are as a person and a little bit about your hunting background.
All right. So I'm Curtis Mercier, out of Grand Rapids, 33. I got a wife, two little kids. My son actually turns 2 here in a few weeks, and my daughter's 4. So that's been an interesting change for the last few years, kind of battling that with my free time and, all the other things I like to do. I would say I've always hunted, but I started, young, just hunting with my dad. Like even before I could even hunt myself, I would just went out with my dad. I specifically remember a time where I think it was probably like the first time I'd ever hunted. Me and my dad went out to behind my aunt and uncle's house at the time. And I remember walking out through this grass, and my dad was carrying this little duffel bag. I don't remember the gun he brought, if it was like a little single shot shotgun, or if we were below the rifle line. So I don't think it was, he obviously didn't have a rifle, so it had to have been a shotgun of some sort. But, he had this little black duffel bag, and he had a mag light, like, the old school black ones,
Oh, yeah.
That you probably couldn't even find your way around a bedroom now because they're so dull.
Yeah.
So I remember walking out through this tall grass, and it was early, and I remember like kind of getting wet because it was dewy, and we just walked up to like the edge of this wood line and like sat in these little like grassy knolls. And I remember sitting there, and I remember just not really knowing what like our purpose of being there was. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna hunt. We're gonna get a deer, and I remember just sitting there and just waiting, and we never, to my knowledge, I don't think we saw a deer.
Do you remember how old you were?
I honestly don't.
Okay.
And I was actually over at my parents'. Like I said, I was fixing the wheel bearings of my truck the other day, and I made a note to ask my dad about that exact story in that situation, so I could better tell it this morning. But never crossed my mind.
That's okay. I just was curious if it was like sub 10 years old or maybe like your early teens.
I had to have been, because I honestly, I can't even remember. I don't even think I'd taken like hunter safety at that point.
Okay. So you were pretty young then. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I've noticed that there's a lot of the guys, and I don't know, again, I didn't grow up this way. But most of the people that I talked to started young, like with their dads. And I think if that's all you know, then, the way that I look at it is you are leaps and bounds ahead of somebody like myself who didn't start till he was at least 20. Then I took 13 years off and didn't start again until I was 30 something. So when you look back on your life at 33, it's not that far. It's not that you're not that old. You're not an old coot who's got just, decades and decades of memories. But could you imagine your life being any different? Or do you just absolutely cherish those memories?
I do.
Yeah.
Especially now, I kind of similar in the aspect of like you did. You took a little break kind of in the middle there. So like going out that morning with my dad was like my initial first memory of hunting whatsoever. And then we'd always go, like, I feel like it was always like Labor Day week. Like we would always, when I was young, me and my dad would always just go find a spot to hunt that fall. And I only rifle hunted at that point. That was the only hunting season I knew was November 15th. I didn't even muzzleload, so it was like just like essentially through Thanksgiving weekend. Like that was like one of the last times like we went out. We'd always go out Thanksgiving morning, and so even at a young age, like I only had that small little chunk. I got buddies who they started bow hunting when they were 12. And stuff like that, and killed their first deer that way. Like I went with my dad before I could even hunt. I remember going to hunter safety, taking all that, but other than that first time, sitting there with my dad in those grassy knolls, I don't even remember like hunting with my dad again after that, because it went from that to the next time I hunted. It was like one of the first time I hunted on my own.
Okay.
And, we would just strictly hunt public land, 1 or 2 weekends, out of the year. And especially like Thanksgiving morning, we'd go out with, my dad's longtime friend and, his son. And we'd always go out Thanksgiving morning. And that was when I actually killed my first deer, my very first deer.
Oh, nice. So it was Thanksgiving morning.
It was Thanksgiving morning. I think it was 2006. I think it was,
okay.
It was actually pictures I sent you. I think I'm wearing that red shirt and the deer's kind of hanging in the tree.
Yeah.
So, it was Thanksgiving morning. Just sitting in a, makeshift ground blind on this little ridge with like some like thicker poppy stuff, like, down at the bottom. And I had hunted there before. And I would always see deer, but like I'd always see a doe. And that was back in the day when, you couldn't just buy an over the counter doe tag. You had to apply for them.
Right.
I wouldn't have drawn a doe tag that year. I just wanted to kill a deer.
Yeah.
I didn't care what it was. And, I remember sitting in that little ground blind. And, I remember one time I had fallen asleep sitting there, and I was wearing this bright orange one-piece zip-up hunting suit, and I'd fallen asleep. I can't remember if I was like sitting in like a little like chair I brought in, or if like I was sitting on a bucket. I remember that little ground blind we built. It wasn't, someone had already like half. We just kind of like cleaned it up a little bit, and I was sitting there. Well, I remember falling asleep, and I woke up, and there was like 8 doe like bedded all around me. Like I was so close to them, I could see their eyelashes like blinking at me, and I was absolutely terrified. I was terrified.
You were alone?
Deer. I was alone. My dad was hunting, just down the ridge for me. What I mean? And I remember waking up and looking at him, and like I said, I could see those eyelashes.
Man, that's intense. That's close.
And they were just bedded right next to me.
Yeah.
And like between going to my aunt and uncle's, following my dad out there with that mag light, to waking up to a bunch of doe bedded around me. Like those are my like initial like first memories of hunting. And so back, we'll rewind to your question there. Like you asked if I saw or if anything could have been any different compared to it if I started hunting to if I never hunted, or if I started hunting and just never continued to hunt. Right.
Yeah.
That was
I mean, can you even imagine if your life was different? Like, could you imagine if you grew up not hunting? Like, is hunting such an integral part of who you are today that you just can't imagine life in any other way? Like, is it that
Today,
special to you?
absolutely. Yeah. Today, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I would do. Like, at work, in order to get through a work day, like, I have to listen to a podcast hunting related.
Yeah.
Almost 100% of the day. Just have it playing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if I'm not even really essentially listening to it, just have it there for just background noise.
Sure.
I'm always watching, YouTube videos. I catch myself more and more, especially lately. I've got a new fancy TV that, hooks right up to YouTube, and you press a button and I don't got to search it on my phone and watch it on my phone now. But, even with my kids, like every day when my son wakes up from his nap, we sit on the couch and, watch a deer video, and
that's awesome.
He's there and he loves it. But no, I truly cannot imagine life without hunting and the outdoors.
Do you ever think about all the shit that's going on across the country with what you just said? All the stuff that goes, it's, the discussions and the arguments online about our DNR and the NRC and the infighting that we have amongst hunters in the state of Michigan, and all the things across the country where certain groups have been successful or are at least attempting to throttle our abilities to enjoy the outdoors. Do you ever think about a world or a Michigan or a life where you are not able to hunt? And if so, like, do you pay attention to that stuff that's happening in the background? And do you ever feel inspired to like join in and fight against it?
Yeah, you hear a lot of that. People are worried about, losing access to the public lands, which in turn allows, just the average person, like such as myself,
right,
to be able to access that and be able to hunt. And I really hope that, like, both my children want to not only go out and do things, by themselves, like I did once I could, but I want to be able to enjoy that with them. Like, I feel like the reason it's so important to me now, and the reason why I love it so much now is, those few memories that I have of hunting with my dad when I was so young. And I guess I don't want to say few memories, but, those main, like, key moments where, I looked forward to that, like, oh, this is cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have, like, I guess I don't want to say I didn't have a lot of friends that also hunted, but, like, I didn't have as many friends that, like, went hunted, like, with their dad.
Right.
Like, at a young age, I should say. Like, either they hunted with themselves or, didn't hunt at all. Like, right. I guess my core group of friends, like,
I don't think I did either. I don't think I ever thought about it until, I don't know, maybe the last 5 years. I don't think I know of any friend that I had as a young kid that I knew hunted until I was probably 17 or 18 years old.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was something that anybody ever talked about. No.
And, I may have worded that wrong. Like, I did have, like, a few friends, that were good, but, like, once I hit, like, high school and stuff, yeah, I played football. So, like, that's why I never got into bow hunting, because that early portion of October and late portion of September, like, that was high school football time. You know what I mean? And we still went to deer camp. You know what I mean? We had that long weekend, or just Friday, Saturday, came home Sunday type thing. We'd go up to a buddy's cabin, and we do it that way. But I was more distracted with sports and stuff once I hit that high school age, and stuff.
I'm using air finger quotes and stuff.
Yeah. And
sports and babes, hot babes.
Yeah,
that's right, man. I remember the good old days. The days are good now. Don't get me wrong. I'm married with children, and I have everything I've ever wanted, and everything's great. But nothing hurt back then. I mean, everything hurts nowadays. The good old days.
Yeah. So I guess to better answer your question, it is very concerning that, we have that possibility of, I guess let's rewind, because the one thing about that I don't understand is, and I'm not sure if you can contest this, but they say, like, hunter numbers are, like, declining. But I feel like even with the limited amount of public land I hunt nowadays, like, it is much busier now than it was back then. I mean, granted, I went to one spot and sat by a tree.
Yeah.
At a young age. So, like, I wasn't putting miles and miles on the ground finding, oh, there's a tree stand there. There's a tree stand here.
Mhm.
Like I went to my one spot and I sat there and I either saw a deer or I didn't, killed the deer or I didn't. And, that was the end of it.
I don't know that I would contest it. It is something that is top of mind for me. It is something that I'm curious about because I don't know that I agree with it either. I will say that only within the last couple of years did I really start venturing out at all into public land near my house. When I was younger and first started, we would go up to the national forest and hunt. And at that point, it's super vast. I never saw anything that appeared to be hunter sign. Here in my area, which is, Metro Detroit, I live very close to Holly State rec area. And there's tons of stands and cameras out there. And I never hunt it during regular season. I always focus like the extended archery season that we have over here in January, and I never see anybody, but I can tell that they're there. So I don't know either. It's something that I'm very curious about. I often wonder if it's almost a wash. And I was thinking about this the other day. Old people just get old and they kind of ride off into the sunset. And they don't really talk about it as much as a young person talks about getting into the sport. And so do we only know what we're hearing from, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, do old people just kind of get old, stop hunting or die, and we just don't know it? And then young people are getting into it at a limited scale. And so is it really a wash? Like, are the same number of old people quitting that there are starting? And I wonder if it's sort of plateaued, maybe not down or up, just plateaued.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with it. I feel like if anything, we're getting to the point where we have more of the right people hunting as opposed to too many people hunting, if that makes sense at all. Like, I feel like there's more people that are out there who are goal driven, purpose driven, and are trying to accomplish, one thing, which is kill big deer. I feel like, especially back when, granted, maybe it was just because I was young, but I was trying to kill any legal deer I could.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which, my first deer that I killed was a half rack.
Same.
4 on one side, and he only had 3 legs.
Oh, damn.
And, I didn't even know big deer exist. You know what I mean? I guess I just knew deer existed, but I didn't know like a big deer to a small deer at that point. You know what I mean? I was out there to just kill a deer.
Let's talk about that for just a second. You shot a half rack for your first deer and he had 3 legs. Is it that he was a half rack because of a genetic abnormality, or did it break off? Like
it was definitely snapped off.
And do you think was the leg and the antler from the same injury maybe?
I think so, because it was kind of broken off like right at his elbow.
Okay.
And like there was a tendon and his hoof was still like dangling.
Oh my Lord.
And so it looks like he got hit by a car, because like his whole one side was broken off, and like the G3 on the front of the other side was snapped off like right at the main beam.
Do you remember how old you were?
Oh boy, that was my first year, 2006. Like, no.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just curious. I'm always curious when someone shoots their first, buck.
They do have been. I think that was 2006.
Were you by yourself?
I was with my dad.
Okay.
I was with my dad. That was actually Thanksgiving morning.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I remember I was playing with my grunt tube and just blowing on this little thing. It was probably some cheap one at Meyer. It was only like yay big. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like a full tube. It was like one. I feel like it was one for like bow hunting that you could just like keep in your mouth.
Oh,
with you, like while you were, if you had to move to take a shot, you could have it in your mouth.
I don't think I've ever seen one of those. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was this teeny little thing. I remember just goofing around on that, and this buck comes like storming in. And when I first looked up,
well, hold on, he's got 3 legs. Was he really storming?
This deer was very mobile. And
okay, I stand corrected.
So when he first came in, I only saw the one side that didn't have an antler on it. But then I hit the grunt tube one more time. This thing turns and looks at me, and I'm like, holy crap. And I hit my grunt tube one more time, and he comes barreling up this hill at me. And like, I just completely panicked. I had a 30-30, Marlin 30-30, and I didn't even have the hammer back on this thing. And I pick it up to shoot at it as it's running up the hill at me, and I shoot, and it hits this small little pine tree in front of me, and this tree comes crashing down, and the deer jumps over top of my ground blind.
Come on.
I swear to
The
God.
three-legged deer?
A three-legged deer. I rack another shell in, and I shoot it, and it falls on the ground.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, what the heck was that? And I get up, and I start, walking up to the deer behind me, and this thing's like trying to get away.
Oh, that's the worst.
It was missing its back left leg. Like that's where it was missing part of its back left leg.
Yeah.
And I had shot it in the inside ham of its only other good back leg. And so this thing's trying to like crawl away.
Oh,
and
that poor thing.
And hollering.
Yeah.
Like I forgot exactly what I said, but like my dad wasn't too far away from me, and he heard me like shoot like 2 or 3 times, and then I'm yelling. So like he thinks that like I'm being robbed.
Yeah.
But I was just, pumped. I just got this deer, and it's trying to crawl away. And my dad comes running over, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you were getting robbed or something." And I'm like, "No, I got this deer." And so and at that point, my dad put a slug round through it, and put it down. And I just remember this thing trying to get away, and then we flip it over, and it's only got 3 legs.
That's
and
unbelievable.
That was a very large joke between my dad and his buddy who we'd always go hunting with on Thanksgiving morning there. That I got the tripod deer. He'd always hold like three fingers up at me.
That's a pretty good story that should be told forever.
Say it again.
I said that's a pretty good story that hopefully gets told forever, for all of time.
And to paint a better picture to everyone, I was also wearing a one-piece zip-up bright orange hunting suit with I'm pretty sure I had on like this like Elmer Fudd looking hat with these ear flaps, but I had them like tucked up so they like stuck out the sides. You know what I mean? And
classic. That is a classic look. If I think back about what like the old timers did in the 70s and 80s, that's what I visualize for sure. That's amazing.
And this was just some spot that me and my dad walked around, just him and I together. So my dog's sitting on the couch next.
I can't even see it.
And just some spot that we just there was no. It was not. I guess I shouldn't even say it was like scouting based. Like, oh, this spot looks cool, and like I said, that there was already this little other ground blind there, and we just kind of ramshackled it together, and that's where I sat. My dad was within earshot of me because, I can't remember how old I was or what year it was. I swear it was 2006.
Okay.
So, I had to have been 13, 14.
Okay. Do you remember what made you pick up a bow for the first time?
Yeah. So, it was actually my neighbor. This was 2000. That had been like 2016, I think, I bought my first bow.
Okay.
But let's rewind to before that. So I actually had a crossbow.
Oh, okay.
The very first time I ever started, I guess I archery hunted.
Yeah.
Per se. My parents had gotten me a crossbow for Christmas. And I was talking to one of my buddies I played softball with, and he's like, you should come out to my uncle's farm. We hunt out there. If you got a crossbow, you can bow hunt. So, all right, yeah, let's try it out. And I just remember I'd only ever hunted November prior to that. And, at that time, it was rifle season. So, there's not many leaves on the tree. Everything's dead. It's cold. And, I remember walking in the woods when, it was so green, and I'm like, you can hunt like this time of year. Everything's so green. You can actually hide in a tree. You can hide, these deer can hide better on the ground. Like, it's not 2 degrees out. Like, I like this.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Shooting a little, I think it was like a little 9-point, a little basket 9-point or something, with my crossbow. And I just remember falling in love with October.
Okay.
Like month of October. Like, you hear guys talk about, November. Like we all love November, but I am so in love with the month of October.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I love September leading, the end of that month leading into that, that's when, college football is kicking off, and, just fall in general. But I would do a lot of terrible things to trade the other 10 months out of the year to just have October and November and stick with those 2 months. And I just remember I just fell in love with the month of October.
There's something to be said about that, because I I'm an October guy too, and I fully understand staying out of the woods until it's the right time, and I fully understand how incredible that very big end of October and the beginning of November can be. I love October. I agree with you 100%.
And just like you said, staying out of the woods until, it's the right time. It's very difficult for me to do that.
I can't do it.
I'm getting to the point where like I'm now trying to find spots that are either going to be hit or miss just so I can hunt the early portions of October, because I just love being in the woods at that time of year.
That's an interesting theory. I wonder if I'm really missing out. So like I told you earlier, I have only ever hunted Holly State until January. I wonder if I ought to like do early, like the earliest couple weeks on the state land by my house when I'm just anxious to be in the woods, because it's the right time. No, I don't want to screw up anybody else's hunts, but that way I'm off my good piece. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a really good idea. Maybe I'm going to do that this year. I like it.
See, and I'm going to test that theory like fully this year, because, I scout all this public land, but like, don't get this twisted. Like, I'm not a public land hunter. You know what I mean? That's where I struggle, because like even out of state, like I'm yet to 3 years in a row, I've ate my non-resident tag hunting public land, and we can get to that later. But the last few years, I've spent quite a bit of time, scouting in the off season on public pieces, whether it's just me or it's a couple buddies. But I do spend a lot of time out there. But once August to mid to late September hit, and all my cell cams start blowing up on the private piece that I'm fortunate enough to hunt, like October 1st, my ass is in a tree over hunting the shit out of this farm that I love so much, because I hunt there with 4 other people, and they're, it's too hot for me, or, I haven't seen anything on any of my cameras, or, what have it.
Mm-hmm.
So, from my first October experience, I think that was like October 12th. I believe it was October 12th. I was just looking at that. And ever since then, I was just consumed with the fact that I could hunt deer in October. I only knew November.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I had a handful of buddies that did bow hunt, but I just never like took much interest into it.
And realistically, that really wasn't that long ago that you just got your first crossbow. I mean, hell, if it was 2016, that was the year before I moved back to Michigan. Like that was very recently. So that's really great.
If I'm getting this right, it was 2000. It was December of 2015. Like I got it for Christmas. Yeah. So I got that in 2015, and then up until I probably wasn't even gonna really hunt with it until my buddy was like, "Hey, my uncle's got this farm. come on out." And from then on, I was stuck with it.
Awesome.
Well, then my neighbor, I actually met him at like a little social gathering down the road, and he was talking turkey hunting, and I'd never turkey hunted at that point either. And he's like, "I also hunt a very, very large, nice farm. Like, we can hunt turkeys. Like, you want to go turkey hunting?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I killed the deer with a crossbow this year, and I was so pumped about it. I went and bought a better one.
Nice.
So let's go shoot a turkey with my new crossbow."
Yeah.
So he took me out. I ended up shooting a turkey at like 10 yards with this crossbow, and like an idiot shooting rage broadheads, probably not even the one set up for a crossbow. One of the blades deployed, and I ended up like winging this turkey from like literally 10 yards on the ground, and the turkey got away.
Oh.
Me and my neighbor, became closer, and I was working nights at the time. So, we'd hang out after work and stuff. Our timelines kind of worked out. We'd have a couple beers in the garage, play darts and bullshit. Well, one day he was like, let's go shoot some bows or whatever. And I was plugging away with my crossbow, and, he was shooting his compound, and like, man, that is way cooler than this freaking thing. Like, I gotta like cock this thing every time, and I only got 3 arrows. Like, you got like 3 dozen, and you're just filling up this target. I'm shooting 3.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. I didn't feel like I was like, you couldn't even practice with a crossbow because of how inconvenient it was to have to.
I've never thought about that. Okay. I agree with you. I get it now. Yeah. Because when my son, so I had one for a little while because I thought I was going to need it when I had to switch left-handed. Ended up not liking it. Let my kids use it. And you're right. You take 3 shots, and then you got to go get your bolts again, and you got to cock it every single time. And the kids can't cock it. You got to cock it. And hell, it's dangerous cocking that damn thing if you're doing it by hand with those little pull strings. I never thought about it being inconvenient like that, but you're right.
Yeah. So then he hands me his bow, and he's like, "You want to shoot this?" I'm like, "Dude, I've never done this before. I've tried to pull one of my buddies back before, but I'd never." It was one of those older bows, so like if you've never done it before, you don't know like what muscles to use.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even pull this thing back. And my buddy, he's probably like 5'8", and he hands me this bow, and I'm trying to yank it back, and I can't even do it. And I'm like, dude, I'm like way bigger and like way stronger than you, and like physically fit. Like I played sports my whole life, and I can't pull this freaking bow and arrow back. And that was years prior to that. And so my neighbor hands me his bow, and he's like, you want to try it? And I'm like, well, I tried to pull Dennis's back that one time, and I couldn't do it. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to pull this one back. This one's way fancier than that one was. And he's like, no, dude, you'll be able to do it. So he racked an arrow for me and yanked it back, and I shot he put a 5-hour energy bottle up there, and I had never shot a compound bow before, and I shot this 5-hour energy bottle straight through the center.
Holy shit.
Like my first time ever shooting a compound bow.
Do you remember what kind of bow it was?
It was a Bowtech.
Okay.
And then I remember, looking at him, and I'm like, holy shit. Like I just paid, $600 for, this crossbow that is not really that cool. Like compound bows, even used ones, they're much more affordable.
Yeah.
And I started looking at him on eBay. Well, I came across this. It was a Bear Legion, and it was like $285. Came with a case, arrows, rest, release, sight, fully set up in this plastic hard case. And I sent it remember sending the link to my neighbor, and I was like, "Is this a good deal for this?" And he's like, "Yeah, like that's a pretty decent deal. Maybe see if you can talk her down a little bit just for the sake of it."
Mm-hmm.
So I think I offered her like $250, and she said deal or whatever.
Nice. Buy it now for $250.
Yep. So I did. I mean, I remember I was like I said, I was working nights at the time, and I bought that, and it showed up, and I showed it to my neighbor, and he's like, "Dude, that is a deal." Like, I mean, this thing was like brand new. So the tags.
Holy shit.
But it was like, it didn't have the tags on it, but they were in the case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, was not used.
She probably broke up with her old man and stole it from him and then sold it on eBay.
See, I vaguely remember this lady saying, because I was messaging her on eBay, like when I was doing like the bidding thing and like trying to work out a price. And I'm fairly certain she said that it used to be her husband's, but he doesn't need it anymore or something similar to that. But anyway, so I get this steal on this bow and start shooting the shit out of this thing in my backyard. It came with some gold tip hunter arrows, this chintzy wrist strap release, and it was a whisker biscuit, and I can't remember what sight it was. And I remember every day after work, we were just flinging arrows. We actually ended up buying a dartboard, and I had this big foam steel belt wrapped target, and we bought this huge dartboard, and for shooting arrows at, and we were playing darts, flinging arrows.
That's
every day
awesome.
After work.
You and the neighbors? You and the neighbors?
Me and the neighbors, and one of my other buddies that also worked nights at the time would come over, and we were just flinging arrows, playing darts, and we do that every day after work. And so that's when I really started falling in love with archery. And I remember I still had that crossbow, and I was like, I'll just hang on to it. You know what I mean? Ended up being a very good thing that I did. Well, we ended up getting permission to hunt this little 5-acre chunk on one of my buddy's parents' friends' land. They own this little 5-acre chunk where there's ridges on all the sides, and they owned all the high ground on this little section right in town here. And so we were hunting out there all October, and had a couple decent experiences, with deer, seeing them moving through this section, trying to figure out like what we got to do to try to kill these things, lugging around these. He had a climber, but I just had a very heavy permanent hang on stand, and we were trying to narrow down what we got to do. And he'd always been a pretty avid hunter. Like even at a young age, like he killed like some of his first deer with a bow, you know what I mean? Up at that farm where we turkey hunted. And, so October rolls into November, and, we're going to hunt that little 5-acre piece. And, I ended up buying a soft case for that bow because, it was just easier than that big heavy one. I had a Dodge car. It was a Dodge, Avenger at the time. And, I don't think it fit in my trunk with that hard case. I bought a soft case. Well, we go hunt this little 5-acre chunk, and I took my case out, set it next to my boots, next to my car. And my neighbor pulls up, and I was kind of like directing him like where to park. And, I didn't notice that my bow case had tipped over, and he pulls up right next to me, and I just hear this crunch, and I look, and was parked on top of my bow.
No.
That I had been flinging arrows right and left with. Finally had it dialed. I think I ended up getting a QAD drop away put on. I did not end up getting a new sight. I remember I got a new rest and like a new quiver and some new arrows and stuff, you know, after shooting it all summer before the fall. And he crunched that.
Oh my
God. I knock on his window, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, like, can you back up? You just ran. You're parked on top of my bow." And he's like, "No way." Like, yeah, dude, it like tipped over. Like, it absolutely wasn't your fault, but yeah, you're on my bow. So pull my bow out, put it on the tailgate, and it's in pieces. The only thing that actually survived was the rest. The rest I put on there, the most expensive piece of the bow, but
almost the same cost as the bow itself.
Essentially, yeah. So I'm like, shit, like, what are we going to do? Well, then I remembered I had that crossbow. Well, it was November. It was early November. And I remember I blazed back home, grabbed my crossbow. And, this was a weekday. We were hunting during the week because, you know, like I said, I worked nights. Well, my wife we weren't married at the time. Well, she was going to school. So I coming home, I'm running in the house and grabbing this crossbow, and I hung it on the steps, like the hook on my basement steps. And when I was running in and out of the house, I got the dogs all ramped up, and one of them like jumps up on me and hits the crossbow hanging on the hook, and the crossbow falls down the stairs, all the way down the stairs.
Oh my God.
I'm like, can this day get absolutely any worse?
Was it meant to be?
Yeah. Anywho, the crossbow ended up being fine.
Oh.
I shot in my backyard once before I ran back over there, and I actually made it back to hunt that morning, like just right at first light. And so now I'm like, shit, well, I don't want to hunt with this stupid crossbow. Like, not my thing. Not bashing crossbow hunters whatsoever. You know, my dad is a crossbow hunter, just for the sheer fact of he never got into archery hunting until I actually shot my deer with that crossbow, and he ended up going and buying one, and he's been, you know, hunting archery season with crossbow ever since.
That's awesome.
Back to the story. I ended up buying another compound from a buddy. He's, you know, I seen he had like posted it on Marketplace or something, and I was like, it was a Hoyt Rampage. I was like, hey, would you give me a deal on that? And I think he ended up selling that to me for like $300 or something.
Damn, that's a deal.
So yeah, it was decent. And so I started shooting that thing. I went to the bow shop, got it all tuned, and I just hated it.
Oh,
I don't know what it was. Like, it was loud. There's nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? I didn't like it. Well, I couldn't just continue hunting with that at the whole season. You know what I mean? Like, I had to do something else. So I ended up buying a brand new bow, like end of November at this point. Like, I feel like it was like trickling towards the end of gun season. I went to the bow shop that I just got the other one set up at, and I think I bought it was a Mission. It was a Mission. Can't remember the name of it, but anyway, so I bought that. I ended up hunting the rest of the season with that, and I ended up killing a buck behind my buddy's house late December with that.
With the bow that you had just picked up?
With the bow I just picked up.
That's awesome.
I ended up shooting that one out of my buddy's garage while we were playing darts after work. And, you know, that was essentially like my first compound bow kill.
That's awesome.
At the time, you could bait.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Michigan.
That's true.
So we would dump a corn pile out behind his house, behind his parents' garage, and we'd sit there and play darts and just watch deer. And so I was like, I bet you I can kill that thing. And he's got this side door, and he just snuck right out the side and just walked around the corner, fully drawn. And yeah, he never seen me. And
I don't think I know anybody that's ever shot a deer from their garage or a garage at all. That's impressive. You take that spot now. You're the only one I've ever met.
Well, I wasn't inside the garage, so
that's true. Okay.
I don't think that actually counts, but yeah,
that's cool, man.
So that's how I got into it, and that was 2017 ish, I think it was.
Sounds about right.
No, that was 2000. Yeah, 2017, because I got that crossbow, killed the first archery season deer, 2016 there, and then that winter, I was just consumed with archery, and
sure.
That early October season, we were still shooting bows like all winter and stuff. And then I heard that all these big, bow companies, they release all their new products, in March or April every year, like right around the ATA show. So, or February-ish. Yeah, maybe it's February. Anywho, so that same year, the Matthews Tri-X came out. So of course, me being the young delinquent that I was at the time, with the hours I worked, I had more money and no time to spend it because I was working so much. And I went and bought another new bow. So
it sounds about right. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So going in, so that was that was February of 2017, right after that 2016 season. I went and bought a Matthews Tri-X.
Amazing.
So I bought a crossbow. I'd bought a Bear Legion compound from eBay, a buddy's Hoyt Rampage that he sold me because my other bow got crunched, and that Mission, I can't even remember what model that was, and then a Matthews Tri-X all in one.
Let me ask you this. When you started shooting the Matthews, could you notice a difference in, how it felt in your hands shooting it, either how it sounded or how it felt in your hands compared to all the other bows you shot?
I'm sure I would know.
Yeah. Okay.
But back then, not really. I just feel like every bow just felt, different.
Got it.
But at that point, I'd never shot a brand new bow.
Right.
And I didn't even really know what quality essentially was at that point. But
sure.
And if I was at the level of knowledge of stuff I know now, back then, I'm sure I definitely would have. But back then it was, your bow just feels different than mine. Yours is way lighter, heavier. This one looks way cooler. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I didn't know, but all I knew was, Matthews, Hoyt, and whatever. So I went in and bought a new bow.
So that's early spring of 2017. You are by the sounds of it, you got bow fever. Like you just love. Yeah. You've officially love archery hunting.
I'm 25 years old.
At 25 years old, you're in love with bow hunting. You've now got a brand new bow. Like, does it cross your mind? Like, this is all I want to do, or are you still like a bow and a gun hunter at this point? Do you think?
Well, if we rewind, just like you did, I took a very large, I don't want to say break from hunting, but I would hunt 1 or 2 times, rifle season with my dad. I was moved out from my parents' house at the time. I was working nights in a shipping warehouse, and everything else was far more important than, hunting, sure. Especially even just hunting with my dad. You know what I mean? I wasn't going out doing anything by myself. And I think a lot of it was my time frame. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I the opposite schedule of my dad and pretty much everybody else and every living thing on this planet.
Yeah.
And, so hunting kind of took a backseat. I was more concerned with, going up north and partying at my buddy's cottage, or
sure, I get that,
drinking beers with the guys on the weekend. There was no way I was getting up and going hunting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I would say from 22 to probably 24-ish. Let's go. I would say 21 to about that 24 window. I kind of took a little step back and
okay.
hunted 1 or 2 times a year. But then, once I got into archery season, it kind of, sucked me right back in full circle. And this, of course, is, lining up perfectly to be right around the time where I'm getting married. And I'm going to have to make lots of decisions where I can't just do whatever I want anymore. You know what I mean? So it's kind of,
I totally do.
A perfect storm. And, even my wife, she says that because I don't want to say I'm obsessed with hunting.
You can say it. This is a safe space.
I'm very much
You're passionate.
I spend a majority of my time either thinking of, how I can prepare, do something for next year, or thinking of shit that went wrong last year and how I can fix it. Constantly look, one thing or another. I am an idea man, and
this is something that you'll learn about me the longer you interact with me on the internet. I have a lot of really good ideas, like a lot of them. I also have a lot of really bad ideas, but there's a lot of really good ideas. I think there's an opportunity here for all of these people that I've interacted with in Michigan, for our wives to have a group to where they can get together and have their own safe space to complain about us, men who spend way too much time hunting, talking about hunting, spending money on hunting, and going away in the fall and leaving them to fend for themselves. I think we have an opportunity to create like this group for the women to get together and they can really just say whatever they want about us, and we'll be none the wiser. You think your wife would be interested in that?
Yeah, very, very great idea. But shout out to my wife for never. She does not complain at all. Even with having
must be nice
two children now, Curtis is gone playing in the woods again. It's never like bitching or complaining.
That's good.
She is an absolute saint in that aspect.
So I said what I said, but I think there's a point at which the wives see how fulfilling this is to us, and they if they love us, then they want what's best for us. And if it truly is giving you purpose and fulfilling your soul, then why not support it?
And I feel that's 100%
nice.
Her purpose with that. She sees, like, especially since we've had children, like, even though my children can't hunt with me right now because they're far too young, they are excited to see me excited about it. You know what I mean? Every time I walk in the door, did you bring me a deer?
Oh, that's awesome.
Dad got another thing in the mail with some hunting stuff. Can I see it? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, I guess I'm hoping that I'm getting the bug their direction as well. So
good. So let's go back to 2017. You've got a bow. You got a brand new Matthews Triax. At this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you have only ever hunted in Michigan at this point. Are you still, like, as of 2017, 2018, are you still only hunting in Michigan? Or are you starting to think about, like, venturing out yet?
At that point, I had definitely only hunted in Michigan.
Okay.
So that was, late, or I guess early 2017, off season. So I got that bow all set up and, shot the shit out of it again all summer again, rolling into the fall of 2018. I was just pumped to have a brand new bow and kind of dabbling in, that off season work, moving some stands, buying new stands, hanging them, getting more in depth with like running trail cameras and probably overly obsessed with checking those. And I was also getting married that fall.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love October, you should have seen the wedding venue lady's face when the only open date for 2018 was October 6th.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it's like, please, anything but that. She looked at me like, you're seriously going to say that? And so we ended up getting married October 6th, 2018. So between wedding planning, getting married in October, by the time I got back from our honeymoon and whatnot, October was almost gone that year. So I had also just switched to day shift.
Okay.
So my schedules were, much different then, and I had absorbed a new role at work and found myself working lots and lots of hours trying to learn my new gig. So between that and being married, I didn't exactly get to hunt much from October to November that year. But I did end up killing a very, I guess I should say, very good deer. But it will be my all-time favorite deer.
Oh, that's awesome.
I ended up shooting. He ended up going like 114 net or gross, but only netted like 103 because it was a 7-point. But I shot that December 16th of 2018, that first year of, I guess, like fully getting in and having like a full October with a compound.
Yeah.
And that kind of is what lit the very large fire that I have now. And it's been very, very consuming ever since.
Well, when was it where you started to, were you having consistent success in Michigan and just wanted to do more, or were you struggling in Michigan and wanting to do more, whereas you decided to venture outside of Michigan?
Yeah. So after that, like I said, I was fully consumed with, archery hunting October. And now I knew, like, I can kill a decent deer, what I mean? And it's a
good feeling.
Pumped about that, especially with it being in December, killing with in Michigan. That's what I know now. It's fairly difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wasn't hunting like a food source. You know what I mean? Like, the farm that I hunt it's 260 plus acres.
Nice.
But like 50 of it is woods. You know what I mean? It's essentially 2 very large cornfields with a creek bottom that runs through it with a small ridge system. And so I find myself loving December as much as I do October and November, but it's just because of that one deer. And I find it very hard to, I haven't killed a good buck in December since then.
Well, I love December too, because I prefer to be cold. Like I don't love sweating when I'm out there, and I'm a sweaty guy. So I would way rather be cold and have to bundle up a little bit and, catch those deer on their feet because they have to be. Like I would just personally, I love December for that reason as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same, especially after that deer. I mean, I got a big joke that goes around. A couple of my good buddies now, like December bow bucks, and they all call me an idiot. And I'm like, it's a thing. Like, you guys need to start believing in it because I want somebody else to do it. So I'm not the only one that's out there in freaking blizzard in December just because I killed one of my favorite deer in December. But I guess, to answer your question, that was what, lit a fire inside of me to start venturing out and, trying to chase, bigger and better deer. And, being young and naive, I solely relied on trail camera data, early back then. So I would get all these, beautiful 130 to 140 inch bucks on camera all summer.
Right.
And couldn't figure out why they just never came back after, late September, early October. And, so then it was probably very wrong of me, but I started, looking at hunting out of state just because I was like, oh, Michigan sucks. Like there's not any big deer here. Like
it's funny I know we just took a super small window of your life, your hunting, but you shot a great deer. I got 130s and 40s on camera. Michigan sucks. I got to get the fuck out of here. It's really funny when you hear it like that, but I know what you're saying. I have a whole bunch of 115 inch deer on the wall. And I have a whole bunch of trail cameras of 130s and 140s that I've never seen on the hoof. So I totally get what you're saying. But when you hear it out loud in a 10-second span, it sounds really silly.
Yeah. And like, don't get it twisted. Like I wasn't getting like tons and tons of these 100, 130s to 140s. Like, there would be a select few.
Sure.
But what made me like not focus on like go find, I'm leaving deer to go find deer just because I can't kill them. You know what I mean? Like, let's go spend a shit ton of money to do the same thing you're doing in your homestay elsewhere with very small odds and just making them even smaller with, only scouting one weekend out of state that year that you plan to hunt it. You know what I mean? Like I am starting to get to the point and realizing like I did a lot of things so backwards. Like I couldn't kill big deer in Michigan. So I was like, oh, there's more bigger deer not here. So that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And how I landed in Indiana, being that state that I'm going to get my feet wet and in the non-resident hunting game, not very impressed with my decisions.
Well,
in that aspect.
Why Indiana?
And I think it was, me also trying to, I wanted instant results too. Okay. So it's like, I don't want to drive 9 hours. I only want to drive 5.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, we ended up going down, and this was 2021. So 2018.
With or without your beautiful mullet?
At that point, I hadn't even dreamt of the mullet yet.
That thing was spectacular, and I highly encourage you to bring it back. I'm just saying.
As much as I want to, my wife hated it. A few of my friends hated it. It started out as a joke where she didn't think I would actually do it, and then I just did it, and then it got to the point where like it was full blown at my shoulders. Like I had to have a decent chunk cut off because like it was like growing uneven because like I used to shave my head, like not shave it but buzz it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like until I got married, I never even had like a hairstyle. So yeah, she hated that.
It's a damn shame. That thing was a work of art.
I put a lot of effort into it. But,
sorry. We got derailed there by hair talk.
Oh yeah, I was very proud of that, and
you should be.
I guess how we'll end it with that was I actually didn't tell my wife I was getting it cut. Just went and got it cut, and my hair lady put it in a little rubber band and a little my little back ponytail portion of it. And my wife got home from work and was actually sitting on the toilet going to the bathroom, and I just like took it out of my pocket and like told her to close her eyes and handed it to her while she was sitting on the toilet, opened up and saw it.
It's very brave of her to take those instructions and actually do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, so I guess getting back to dabbling in this out of state thing. So yeah, so instead of focusing on like how can I be more successful in Michigan and try to kill a bigger deer, I had 3 straight years from it was 2019 through 2021 where I didn't fill a tag in Michigan or out of state. I guess
wow.
I didn't start hunting out of state until 2021. But
okay.
2019, 2020, and 2021, I did not kill a deer.
A single deer. Now, did you pass deer or did you just?
I did.
Okay.
And I mean, I could have killed deer. I wasn't
right.
I'm not even seeing any deer out here. I killed that my first good bow buck. And then I just was consumed with the thought of trying to kill bigger deer.
Got it.
And
okay.
Was stubborn in my ways of setting like, I'm not killing anything, under 100 inches, or I want to kill a 130, 140. I mean, that's what I was after.
Yeah.
And that was in 2019. Like I can't even really remember that season, to be honest. All I know is that I was looking for a big deer and I was not shooting anything smaller than that. And that season kind of just flew by with minimal memories.
Yeah.
It's sad to say that, but I was so distracted and consumed in trying to kill a big deer that nothing else really mattered. So that rolls into 2020, and I kind of remember taking a step back. Like last year was a blur. Like I don't remember learning anything. I don't really have much to take away from it. It was essentially like a waste. Like I was so consumed with just focusing on killing a big deer that like I didn't learn anything. I wasn't like having any sort of notes, like it was trial and error and trying to better myself. It was like, oh, I killed a big deer, so I got to go just sit in the woods and they're just going to fucking show up in front of me.
Right.
And so that rolls into 2020. And in the off season, I kind of, brought myself down to reality that like, dude, like you got to put the work in. Like you got to do some off season work. You don't just get to shoot your bow and make sure your bow sighted in and then you're just going to go kill one. You know what I mean? And so 2020 rolls around and I had scouted like this different section of this farm that, I'm very blessed to be able to hunt, and found a good tree setup in the like right off the edge of the bedding that was easy to access from parking, and immediately got on, some pretty good deer there that year.
Let me ask you a question, because I haven't asked this yet and I want to ask it now. I've interviewed a couple guys recently who started hunting when they were little. They learned everything that they learned by going to this video store and renting VHS tapes at the time, like old school stuff, and learning everything that way. We haven't really talked about how you learn what you have learned to become a better hunter, but what are you consuming in the off season to gain insight such that when you do go scout, you're not just walking around aimlessly? Like, because you also said something that I've said before, we would go to the woods and we would go, this area looks like deer should be here, for no other reason than just this looks like somewhere where deer should be. Today, when I go in the woods, I have a very systematic approach to what I want to look for and why. What were you doing to get more information inside your brain to become a better hunter?
I mean, besides listening to, endless hours of podcasts.
So you were doing this back then?
No, I didn't, honestly didn't even I knew of podcasts, but I didn't get into any of them until late 2020, after 2020 season, that being one of the most frustrating seasons of my life. YouTube, I would find myself watching, but that just started out as watching kill videos and hunt recaps, nothing like scouting driven. And then I started, finding, Dan Infalt's videos.
Okay.
His hill country videos and stuff where, guys were breaking down certain sections, and I was kind of taking that, cross-referencing it with the properties that I have access to hunt and trying to figure it out that way. And then that's kind of how I got into hunting closer to bedding and figuring oh yeah, that is a thing. Deer just don't randomly go lay down behind a tree, or they just don't, I'm tired, this is where I'm sleeping today, which they do, but I learned that there are designated areas where deer go to sleep. And if you want to kill them in the morning, you should probably be near that. And, so, little things just kind of started coming together. And then, watching videos on YouTube and, talking to, a couple of my buddies and, just telling stories of hunting and slowly putting pieces together, that way, oh, that makes sense. Sitting in the garage bullshitting over a couple beers, telling a story, and then having that click, I was there, deer were here. This is why that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of slowly putting things together myself. I didn't really have anyone who was super big into this when I was young, like we talked about before.
Yeah.
My dad didn't kill his first deer until 2018.
Wow. So all those times when you went with him when you were little, you weren't, although they are great memories.
I was killing the deer.
Oh.
He was just helping me drag him out.
Nice. That's funny.
Granted, they weren't huge bucks or anything,
sure.
But when you're young, that's what's important, is getting out there, making those memories and killing the deer you want to kill.
Well, I think what I'm hearing, and it's a great lesson for a lot of people, is you found success, then you found some struggle, and you were able to self-reflect and go, man, I gotta slow down. I gotta pump the brakes, if you will. And I need to figure out why things work the way they work. And you were not so naive that you're I am an immediate success and it's going to happen every year. I'm going to take some knowledge from some of these other people who are successful in doing what it is that I want to do and be willing to learn. And there's a lot of people that aren't willing to learn and take the time to learn because they're just instant gratification. That's all I can think about. I'm not willing to struggle and do things hard. I want to do it the easy way. But it sounds like you were willing to put in the work, listen to people, and then take that and apply it in the field, scout, learn, and grow. And that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah,
kudos to you.
That didn't come with, at the time I didn't appreciate them as learning lessons, but I got punched in the mouth for 3 straight years.
Yeah.
I finally kill a good deer and then just fall flat on my face after that because, instead of looking at it the big picture wise of all right, what did I do to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it didn't help that, the stand I killed that buck out of, I sat the shit out of it all year. You know what I mean? I was so new to all that, you know what I mean? Where, my cameras are getting deer here. I'm just going to sit here. You know what I mean? Like set the same stand over and over again. So then going into the next season, I was like, oh, I'm going to find a better spot and I'm going to sit there and sit there and sit there. And I'm pretty sure that's how I pissed away my 2019 season, was just sitting, the same spot. If I sit here long enough, one will come by, which it will eventually probably. Sure. But then, in 2020, I started, applying some of the things that I had, seen on YouTube or, articles on scrolling through Facebook from like the MSU Deer Lab and, your travel patterns and stuff, and putting together the puzzle pieces of like hunting near bedding. And, so 2020 rolls around and, I was very frustrated of not killing a deer the year before. You know what I mean? Like I got, spend all this money, spend all this time, I'm running trail cameras. I got a bunch of good deer on camera. Like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And I remember in the off season, I went and scouted like the actual bedding on the property and like tore it apart. And like, how can I hunt this? Like, if I'm going to hunt the bedding, I can't just like waltz in there like I do every other part of the property. And it's not open woods. Like you got to be quiet. You gotta get in clean. You can't be banging shit around and smoking cigarettes up in the tree and, acting like a buffoon.
Yeah.
And, so that was a pretty big reality check when, I started putting these pieces together and I'm like, man, there's a lot more to this. Like I'm hunting this one corner of this property, along with, the other people that hunt that property with me. And, it's no wonder we're not seeing shit. We're not killing, good bucks consistently. Is for one, we're hunting the same stands.
Sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah. So, and all these stands, a lot of them have been there, since, the early 90s.
Oh, damn. That's a long time.
Like they've been moved or like replaced. You know what I mean? Like they're newer stands, but the stand locations.
Yeah. That's what I thought you meant. Yeah.
Been in the same areas. And I'm like, this is madness. So I started getting into that bedding area and tearing that apart in the off season. I'm like, all right, I'm going to start with this one safe option here and see how it works, and we'll go from there. And sorry, I had to get a drink there. I got on a lot of nice deer really quickly. And I'm
awesome.
Like, dude, this is awesome. Like, this is the ticket. Like, rewind to prior to that season, I was talking to my buddy whose uncles own the farm, and I'm like, dude, we got to get in there. You know what I mean? And he's like, we've always left that alone, because that's where like the deer are safe. And I'm like, kind of pass along like what I was kind of figuring out. I'm like, okay, well, we're hunting the shit out of every other piece of this property besides that. They know that they can go there, and they know that when we're here, obviously, because it's also shitty access on this farm. It's like I said, it's just a creek bed that runs through two big ass cornfields. So when the corn's down, the deer are just sitting on the edge of the woods watching you park, and it's very access. And I said, yeah, but they just go in there and they're comfy in there. Maybe we got to bump them around a little bit, get them up and moving. You know what I mean? If they want, I'm not saying go in there and hunt like idiots, but
sure.
Here's what I found. Like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a try. Like, here's the plan. So I hang the stand and I get on some, pretty decent deer in there. Ended up, it was Halloween morning, drawn back on, probably still to this day, one of the biggest deer, I've ever seen on the hoof. And he only gave me like, he was completely facing away from me, but straight underneath. So it would just been a straight down.
Oh yeah.
All I had was like a spine shot from the back. Like nowadays, like, okay, like what I know now, that's a fucking dead deer. Like he's probably not even going to take another step. I didn't take the shot. Yeah. I stood there drawn on him, and he just stood there and just full draw, walked away. And at that point, I had my daughter, Lainey, and it was Halloween. You can't hunt at night on Halloween. You got to go trick or treating. So I remember just being so frustrated with that, but trying to slowly remind myself, like, dude, you're doing the right things. Like you didn't take, like, I don't consider that like an unethical shot. You know what I mean? Like that's all the vitals correctly. Right there.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
But to me, that I've never had that before. So it was questionable to me.
Sure.
And so I didn't take the shot. Well, got to go trick or treating that night with my daughter. It was her first Halloween. So We go and do all that, and the 2020 season hardships continue. November 4th, I end up trying to get to that stand after work. I don't know if you remember November of 2020, but it was hot as shit.
I don't. I mean, I know what deer I shot in 2020, but I don't remember the weather.
It was hot. Like it was
really?
like 82 degrees.
Oh.
And I remember walking in that day. I got out of work and it was an afternoon. Probably was walking in around like, I would say 3:30ish maybe. And I wasn't even in the woods yet. And there were deer running everywhere. Like, I'm
That's the worst feeling.
And I'm like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get to the stand?
Yeah.
So I get to the stand and I start climbing up and I'm watching two giant bucks just throw each other around.
Really?
On the side of this creek. Like they're locked up. They're smashing each other into trees. Like that's the only time I've ever seen that in my entire life.
That's so cool.
And dude, they're just going at it. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to kill these deer from the stand. Like I guess to paint a picture for this, it's a ladder stand just outside this bedding, not the same stand that I had been hunting, a different one. And it's surrounded, it's on like an oxbow, but it's off of like the corner of like where this creek bends around. It's completely surrounded by water. You have to cross water to get to it. And I'm like, there's no way like they're like a deer's gonna come in front of me. Like I got to get closer to that. Well, there's no cover to there. So I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have to use the creek. So I take all of my shit off. And I am in white like Under Armour leggings.
Okay.
And no shirt and just my bino harness. And I start creeping down this creek. And like, I'm like, at some points I'm like kneeling and like sneaking through, going underneath these, like the blowdowns that cover the creek to get to where these deer are. Cause then there's another little island and I'm going to be closer to these deer. I mean, I might have a shot to get or a chance to get a shot at them. And I'm wading through this creek and nothing but some white Under Armour leggings in November. No idea what I'm doing.
And this is your private piece, right? So there's no way that you wouldn't do that. Would you do this on public?
Now, yes, absolutely. I'm gonna do whatever I got to do. You know what I mean?
Paints a picture. Can you imagine being in your stand and looking over to the creek and watching some dude with no shirt on and in his white Under Armours, like army crawling through the creek? That'd be amazing.
Yeah. And so there I am, and I get to this little island and where I need to be, and these deer come running back down. This doe comes flying like 20 yards from me. Like, all right, I'm good. I'm in the spot. Like, I'm going to sit here until evening. And those bucks come down and they start going at it again. And that's when I am able to make a move up to this little island to where I can get a shot at them. And at this point, I got an arrow nocked. I had actually taken a whole bottle of Tinks and dumped it on my hat.
Oh my God.
Because I was like petrified these deer were going to win me while I'm laying in this creek. And I don't know if you're familiar with full draw bow hunting.
Maybe. I'm just not right at the top of my head right now.
I bought one of their hats online.
Okay.
Brand new hat and just dumped a whole bottle of freaking doe piss on it.
Yeah.
And so I'm kneeling in this creek, doe piss on my head, no shirt on, some would now see through white Under Armour leggings. And these bucks are, within bow range, doing their thing. And I'm sitting there watching them. And finally, one starts working his way down to this creek crossing where it kind of probably like 15 yards from where I'm at is where he would go down to cross. Well, he gets to probably 22 yards ish. And I had ranged this vine and that's where he stops. And I rip my bow back and he's looking like frontal right at me. And I think he's looking at me. And somehow another deer had gotten behind me and was standing there. And he starts like working his way towards me, head down. And I'm like, what is going on? And he gets to about 10 yards and he's like above me at this point. Like I'm like in this creek and he's like above me.
Yeah.
And turns broadside and I shoot and my arrow like flops out of my bow.
What?
And hits the base of this tree at his feet. at 10 yards. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? And he like burns hell out of there.
Sure.
Well, then I heard all this racket behind me, and I look behind me, and there's a doe standing right behind me. He was looking at a doe standing behind me, which I don't know how I didn't hear her, but so he runs off, and the doe run. At that point, I turn around and look, and she blows at me and runs off. I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, what just happened? And why did my arrow barely come out of my bow? And then I look down, and I'm like, my whole bottom cam is underwater.
Oh,
so,
dude.
like, my string, like, when I took my shot, like, it didn't. My bow essentially just didn't work.
Yeah. Unreal.
Flops this. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I'm never going to get another chance at that deer. I mean, this was at that time, the biggest deer, I'd ever seen, biggest deer I ever shot at. And so I'm freaking out. I knock another arrow and just like trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So I hit my grunt tube a few times, and lo and behold, here he comes down the hill again.
Holy shit.
I rip my bow back and he stops at 27 yards. And at this point, I had got my rangefinder out. Like, how did I miss that shot? Other shot, like maybe I wasn't aiming or I wasn't using the right pin.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put together that my bow was underwater at that point. So he comes down at 27 yards. And at this point, I stop him and let one go. My bow does the same thing.
Oh my God. Because you're saying you haven't yet figured out that the bottom cam is underwater?
I've not figured out.
Oh.
It was probably 2 minutes, if that, from my first shot to my second shot. And all I was focused on is where'd that deer come from behind me, where he had ran. I just blew everything, and I'm never going to get another shot of this again. Well, I shoot again, and like this one, I thought might have hit him.
Oh, okay.
Well, from the way he like tucked his tail and went away.
Yeah.
My arrow being stuck in the dirt, but I thought my shot was
okay.
So I'm like, oh, like if I hit him as low, like why am I shooting? Why am I shooting low?
Right.
And at that point, after I missed the second time, that's when I realized my bow's underwater. Like, I mean, I'm kneeling, so
sure.
If I was standing, it probably would have only been like just above my knees, but I'm kneeling in this creek, so it made complete sense. So I go check my arrow. There was a little bit of blood on my fletching, but that was it.
Yeah.
And it was like splatter almost. It wasn't even like just drops. Like there wasn't any hair. There wasn't like, I think I just gave him like a little haircut, and that was it. Like there wasn't even like that much hair on the ground. There wasn't none even on my broadhead. So I'm like, shit. Well, fast forward to November 16th of that same year. So that was November 4th. And I just missed 2 deer, or twice on the same deer from the ground in one day. And November 16th, it was COVID at that time. Everything was shut down. I was still working, but like we were limiting like guys and like the amount of people we had in the office. So we were kind of like rotating a day off for everyone. Well, Wednesdays was my day off, but I had to still like work from home kind of. So I got my stuff done so I could like hunt that morning, and then after work the rest of the afternoon. And I ended up hunting that same morning and seeing the same deer. And all morning, he's running does around, near me, but not like within bow range. And about 10 o'clock, like I'm looking at my clock, like, dude, I got to get going. Like I got to get to work. And about 10 o'clock, he comes within bow range, sneaking through the side of this. And I had one shot before he snuck down into the thick stuff that was right on the edge of the stand I had on the edge of this bowl. And I didn't stop him in time. And I shot and missed again.
Oh.
I'm here.
A deer don't want to die.
And no, I never got another picture of that deer. I never seen that deer again. But I missed him 3 times in 2020.
I guess 3 times having an arrow come at you is like, okay, now I'm going to leave the property. Now it's time. I got my message loud and clear.
Yeah. And so after that, I was pretty defeated. And roll into December. I'm trying to figure out how to get on a deer still, and I start watching YouTube videos. And all these guys are mobile hunting.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, I've had how many good encounters now? Like sitting on the ground. Like if I wasn't mobile earlier this year and didn't put myself in front of the deer, get
That's
to
true.
where the deer are.
Yeah.
Stop hoping they come to me. Like, I'm never going to have a shot at them. So I started watching some videos, Dan Infall and all these guys like talking about mobile hunting. And I went to Cabela's and bought a Lone Wolf Alpha 2.
Okay.
Stand sticks combo, and literally went and bought it, put it together in the tailgate of my truck, grabbed it, never setting it up in a tree one time, and brought it out into the woods.
That's awesome.
And started doing that. And, I learned a lot and was able to get on a different variety of deer, like
Sure.
more. I wasn't just seeing the same deer out of the same, like I was moving around, you know what I mean? It made complete sense. And, I definitely saw a lot of benefits, but with it being too late in the year, like wasn't too little too late.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, well, now that I have a stand I can hunt, that I don't have to just set and leave.
Sure.
I can start venturing to other places.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that's kind of when the talk of hunting out of state started to unravel there. So ends up going deerless in 2020, second year in a row where I've came close, but no cigar. And I actually had a lot to take away from that season, though. You know what I mean?
Of course.
I was doing things with a purpose. I had put time in scouting, postseason, preseason, and during season to put myself in some positions to get on some deer. Well, 2021 rolls around, and a group of buddies start talking about like going out of state and trying to chase some better deer, because for some reason we thought that leaving deer to find deer was the best way to kill a giant buck.
Had these guys done it before, or were you all talking about doing it for the first time?
We were all talking about doing it for the first time. Okay. And so we went down in March or April to Indiana, southern Indiana, and scouted and hung. We didn't hang.
Public or private?
This is all public.
Okay.
Hoosier National down there. Yep. And went and scouted, and we get down there, and like I just had like places marked on a map. You know what I mean? And we get down there scouting, and like, holy shit, like this is like hill country, man. Like this isn't like the flat ag like we're used to where we hunt at home, even like the public land, like, yeah, there's some ridges and stuff, but not
like that
900 feet of elevation change very quickly. Like, holy crap, this is a different ball game. So I end up hanging like 3 cell cameras and like five or six like SD card cameras down there. And like, I think it was like late April, and left them there. Well, as soon as green up comes, like my cell cam shut down. I have one camera that's still sending me pictures, and I'm like, funny. Oh, I have no service. That makes sense. Like, cool.
Yeah.
So that fall rolls around, and we end up going down there. I think it was October 14th through the 24th of that year. And we rented like an Airbnb, like 15, 20 minutes, like from the section that we were hunting. And we go down there, and a lot of good deer on camera on the SD cards. Like, okay. I got a few good bucks on the one cell camera that was running, but the other ones like weren't even transmitting. So I had no idea to that point. And one of them had actually taken a shit. The batteries like exploded in it. So was down a camera, down some intel on there. And so we just kind of started bouncing around down there. Yeah. And, the first few days we kind of just like took it easy, and like, I guess taking it easy isn't the right description there, but we were being far too conservative. You know what I mean? We thought we could just like sit up on top of these ridges and like see where the deer are moving. Yeah. But like, we weren't in the right spot. You know what I mean? We couldn't see down to these bottoms. We couldn't even see like the benches. Like, we were in the right areas, but we weren't in the right spot.
Because then, realistically, at that point in time, at that part of the country, it's still very green. Like, I mean, have the leaves even changed at that point in time, or are they just starting a couple of yellow ones? Just starting to get like a couple yellow, right? And so it's still pretty thick. Sure. Well, that was like the first we got down there, and we dropped our shit, and we hunted that afternoon, and then the next day would be our first full day. So. That first sit we did that afternoon was that like observation sit where we kind of spread out.
in these different areas. And we're just trying to like key in on some deer movement that way. And
are you feeling intimidated, or are you feeling
absolutely.
like hopeful?
Well, I felt good going into it.
Yeah.
Because like, oh dude, like we put in like 10 miles down in, this whole area, like in April there, like it all looks familiar.
Yep.
Well, I get there and it looks nothing like I remember. Just like you said, there's like leaves everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, oh, shit, man.
It's because I know it's got to be similar to where I'm doing this in Illinois. Like I was just there like a month ago, and it looks like a completely different forest than it will in about 2.5 months. And it is so damn thick in there with stinging nettles and the briars. It almost is like I can't even. It's almost you get in there like, fuck it, man. Why am I even here? It's so thick.
And that was like what I thought, but like I was determined.
Hell yeah.
To like figure something out because I was putting in so much time, and I was so in love with bow hunting, and I had like friends and other like people like talking shit to me because I'm so obsessed with this, scouting all the time, checking trail cameras, shooting my bow, talking about it, and I wasn't being about it. They're like, oh, you can't even, like, you haven't even killed the deer.
Well.
Like, what do you mean? Yeah, you're obsessed with this for what? Like, you don't kill shit. So I'm going to show you why. I'm fucking do something here. You know what I mean? Like, then that started eating away at me. But I was able to like direct it in the right direction.
Good.
You know what I mean? And with those people, don't get me wrong. Like, they weren't like talking shit. Like just they were joking
because they care about you for fun.
But I was so frustrated with that. I'm thinking that myself every day. And I got people who don't even fucking hunt noticing that I suck at hunting. Like, what am I doing?
Or is it more like, oh man, are they right? Like, I know they're joking with me and we're friends, but are they right? Is this a waste of time? Yeah. Okay. And
so that's when I kind of started to like, all right, well, I gotta make some moves. I gotta stay in the right mindset. And, we're going to do this right. And that's how I wound up, trying to like expand my net and, become a better hunter that way. And why I thought, like I've said multiple times today, why I thought leaving good deer to go find other deer was going to be helpful. Besides, just another challenge I had to overcome there. So, though, like I said, that first day we just did kind of like a little observation sit. And then the next day we were going to hit it full steam. And I hadn't been down to like where I thought the best spot was going to be at. Like, I hung this camera on this, like when we were down there in April, there was it was very apparent, like hub scrape, like size of the car hood underneath the beech tree. I'm like, this is where I'm going to kill the buck. How I'm going to hunt the bottom, I don't know. Like, I had very little knowledge and understanding of like thermals at that point, like, and how they actually work.
I still feel that way.
And how important it is, especially in hill country. We're talking, I'm hunting a bottom that's 800 to 900 feet in elevation change on both sides. There's no way to access it from the bottom. You have to access it from the top. I mean, there is a way to access it from the bottom, but it's virtually like, it's like 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah, I understand. I totally get that.
And you're parking not even on an accessible trail to get into that, to walk this bottom. And it just wasn't possible. Right. So I was like, I'm going to go hunt this bottom. I'm going to check that camera tonight. And that's what I'm going to do. I'll get down to this bottom and checking these. I find a good tree. I pull the SD card and I'm looking at the time and I'm like, so dude, it's kind of getting late here. I got to find a tree, get set up. Well, I'm like, I'm going to hunt this scrape. The reason why I'm down here for this camera on the scrape. And I'm going to get set up here. So I get set up and I'm checking this trail camera and my mind is blown. How many deer? I mean, this card is full. It's a 32 gig card and there's like 4 folders of pictures in there and like 10,000 pictures.
Holy.
So like, I'm starting at the most recent ones, obviously, because I want the most recent intel and, scrolling through them and like nice buck after nice buck, like freaking, I had the 6-point with like 12, 13 inch brow tines. And I've never seen a deer in another state that like I had a chance at killing, you know what I mean? So I'm looking through these trail camera pictures and it's just blowing my mind. I got like 150 inch 12-point on there. You know what I mean? Like,
it's amazing.
I've never, at that point, I'd never seen like a trail camera picture of my own out from a different state. You know what I mean? So I was like, I might have a chance to kill these deer. This is pretty neat.
Hell yeah.
And this is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. Like, why
There
I
it
constantly
is.
did things backwards? Like, I like was priding myself with being so confident that I've always been way too confident in the aspect of like bow hunting, apparently. And it's the last 2 years, it's become very apparent. Like, that was my problem. And so I'm not even done.
Well, okay. I see what you're saying, but I feel like if you are the opposite, like if you are perpetually negative, that will definitely sink your ship. I think you have to be positive. You have to be confident. And then, but also not so confident that you're not willing to learn. And it sounds to me like you are willing to learn. I don't want people to think that you shouldn't be confident and still fail, because it's okay to be confident and good and fail, but learn and evolve and adapt. And I think you have. I just don't, man. You can definitely, negativity is going to kill you way more than positivity, for sure.
You're right. And so I guess to what you were saying, like I'm way overconfident at this point.
Cocky is what they say.
I'm scrolling through these trail camera pictures, and next thing you know, I have $3 in front of me.
Oh shit!
And I'm like, I'm looking at these trail camera pictures, and I'm like, oh, that's him. That's that one. And I'm not even done looking through these trail camera pictures yet. Like, and then I look over, and I don't even have an arrow in my bow yet.
Oh my god!
Because my bow is on the ground.
There it is.
I was so excited to check these trail camera pictures. I didn't even pull my bow up. So those $3 work off. And, they're all between 100 to like 120 inches.
Do they know that you're there?
No.
Oh, good.
No. I wait for them to work off, and I scramble. I get my bow up, and I just hang my bow. I'm not even sitting down, and 2 more deer come in, and it's 2 doe. They come through. They work off. They walk right underneath. I'm like, dude, like I've seen 5 deer already, and like I just hung my bow up. Like, this is going to be ridiculous. And I'm going to kill a deer tonight. And so then for some reason I like, all right, I got to see what other kind of deer are in here before I'm going to see 1 million deer tonight. So I need to figure out like if there's one in there that
I'm going to hand select my trophy.
Yeah, that was just like terrible way to go about it. And then the bucks start piling in.
Holy shit.
I end up seeing 6 more bucks that night.
Wow.
And I have never seen a deer that big on the hoof ever. Like, I passed at least 3 bucks over 125 inches.
Holy shit.
And there was probably 2 or 3 in there in that 140 to 145 range, if not bigger. And
Unreal.
I just sat there and watched them. I don't know like why or how or what was running through my mind. I'd never been there.
Sure.
I'd never been to a spot where I could kill a deer that big, and it was an actual thing. And I didn't grab my bow. I was like too scared to even move. Like, very, very large reality check.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pumped.
Yeah.
Once I got back to camp that night, and I'm like, dude, like I was covered in bucks. Like, this is awesome. Like, I'm gonna kill a booner tomorrow. Like, I've never had a booner on camera. I've never seen one in in the wild. Like, and there I am, just confidence.
You found it.
Great.
You made it to the promised land.
Yeah, made it to the promised land. And so continue on with that trip. After that, it became a very, very large struggle. The next evening, I'm sitting there and I keep seeing this red light right before dark walk back and forth on the bottom and like on this ridge. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are my friends
like
walking
back and forth?
Yeah. Like, would walk, to my right one time, and then they'd be gone for like 15, 20 minutes, and then walk back again. And I'm like, I thought it was my buddy. And I'm like, why the hell are you like not in your tree? Or like, what is going on? Well, then I get down and there's 2 people standing across the creek where I told my buddy to meet us. And there's a guy who I don't recognize. And we hadn't seen anybody else, like even anywhere near us, or those first 2 days. And this guy was drenched in sweat. And there was a huge temp drop like that evening. Like, it was probably like mid 60s ish when we went in. And it was like probably going to get like, I think it was like high 30s, like when the sun went down.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was like, it was cold, and this guy was drenched in sweat. He was lost.
Oh, shit.
And his phone had died.
Oh,
like,
my God.
Trying to look at his map, and he was like pure panic mode.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't have ran into us, like, I'm pretty confident he would have like died out there.
Oh, my God.
Like, dude, he was drenched in sweat, and it was going to get cold. Like, he would have got hypothermia.
Jesus.
And so we kind of talked to him and figure out like, where'd you come in at? He's like, dude, I went in like down that way and like followed this game trail. And like, I got over these ridges and they all look the same. Like,
yeah.
I have no idea where I'm at. My phone's dead because I was trying to figure out where I was at and whatever. And he kind of described the area that he ended up setting up at, because he got down and started walking out before it was dark.
Mm-hmm.
to get out.
Sure.
So like he could find his way out before it was dark. And that's when he ended up getting lost. And he described the area where he was. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right up here, dude. Like we'll find your stuff and
shit happens that quick, man. Whew.
We'll get you out of here. And sure enough, walk him right to his tree, get him out of there. He ends up being like 4 miles down the road, camping with his buddy. We bring him back and have a couple beers with them for them thanking us for giving him a ride.
No shit. At least.
And so then the next like 2 or 3 days are just a struggle. You know what I mean? Like it got hot.
Yep.
Weather got hot. And we struggled to get on deer. But then day 4 rolls around, and like I hadn't hunted that spot that I had sat that one evening since. And I'm like, I'm gonna go back down to that spot and check it out. Well, on a map, it's like it was like 2.7 miles from where we were camping, or from where we were parked in this little like camping area that we're using to access that every day. There were people camping there, and we would just park near there and, go in that way. Well, it was just under 3 miles to get to this spot that I was hunting down there in that bottom. And I'm like 80 yards from there, and I hear someone talking, and like, I'm like, whoa, someone's down here already? Like, darn it. Like, what am I going to do? But then it's like, I realize it's close to me, and it's like, I hear like splashing in the water, and I'm like, there's people playing down here in the water. So to paint a picture for this, it's a limestone like creek bed in these bottoms.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, when we went down in like April of that year to like scout it, it was full-fledged roaring river with all the snow that had melted.
Oh yeah, sure.
The water moving through there. But October, it's dry, and there's only pockets of water in these like deeper sections where, the water had stayed, and where the creeks run down to those little spots. But it's not like a full-fledged like moving creek. But in one of these holes, I see like a person, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Like this person doesn't have a shirt on. And I pull up my binos, and like I'm getting closer, and I'm like, this person also doesn't have pants on.
What?
And yeah, and at this point, I'm like, where am I in the wrong spot?
Man or woman?
Like, this is a male.
Okay.
This is a man, and he's got his back turned to me, and he's just like standing up and sitting down. He's like crouching like in this like creek, and I'm looking at my map, like, am I in the wrong spot? Like my stand should be like 40 yards just across this, the creek bed in this drainage. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I'm in the right spot. I'm like, well, where did this person come from? And there's a campground like 5 miles down from where I'm at. And I'm like, this person come from there? Like, anywho, whatever. I in order to get to my stand, or at least go check this camera, which that's what I decided I was going to do. I was like, all right, I can't hunt here. This guy's playing naked in the creek.
Holy shit.
Like 40 yards from my stand. But how do I get past him? Like, how do I not make this awkward? So I guess my first instinct is to like, nobody's going to fucking believe this. So I wait till he's turned around, and like there's stuff kind of in the way of him. And I snap a picture of this individual where you can just barely see their bare buttons.
I'd have done the same thing.
Just nobody's going to believe me.
Right.
And I kind of slowly make my way up. Well, slowly kind of make my way up. I'm hoping this person will like notice my presence before I notice, or, I have to just like scare them. You know what I mean? Well, I get up to him, and the dude still like doesn't even know I'm there. I'm like 10 yards from him. And I just kind of just, like, let him know I'm there. Like, hey, psst, like, hey, hi. Like, I'm here. Well, he hears me but doesn't see me. So then he like squats down. And he's like looking, and I'm like waiting for this guy to like just start running or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? But then finally he sees me and he's like, he starts yelling, "Oh, hey, how you doing? You know, wasn't expecting to see you." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, me
Same,
either,
pal."
And he goes, what are you doing? Turkey hunting?" I said, no, I'm deer hunting." He's like, "Oh, there was just a bunch right there. They ran that way." Great.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I was barking there. Hold on a second. Hey, sorry, you're gonna have to edit that part off.
No, wait, it's staying in.
So yeah, he's like, "There's a bunch of deer just ran off over there." And mind you, I'm kind of like 10, 15 yards away, and this person's like squatting down in the creek because they're butt ass naked.
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, well, like I'm gonna go this way. All right, like I'm gonna be over here." And he's like, "Oh yeah, all right, like, you know, I'll get out of here too or whatever."
Could you see
and
like
so
a pile of his belongings somewhere?
And that's where it gets even more odd. Like I was expecting him to like go get something.
Yeah.
Like his pile of clothes or whatever and like put them on. No, this man proceeds to like go around this like log and he grabs a water bottle. And at this point, like I had already like said my goodbyes to him or whatever.
Well, that's polite
like,
of you.
You know, turned my head and, you know, went the other way, heading towards where I was going to sit for that night. And I was just decided I'm going to go check the camera. If there was a good deer on there, like I'll hunt here. If not, like I'm going to go scout some other area for the night. Well, I get up to my camera. I forgot to turn the camera back on. So I got no
Dang it.
you know, shame on me for trying to hunt based off trail camera pictures anyway. But I look at the scrape, there's fresh pee in the scrape. So something had been in there. I'm going to try to hunt this scrape from the bottom, in the bottom, like an idiot again. And I get up in my stand and I'm like, where did this person go? Like, I want to know which way this person went. And then I turn around and I look with my binos and I see this person still completely naked walking down this creek bed, heading to, I don't know where, besides that campground that was like just under 5 miles.
Unbelievable.
Down this creek bed. So at that point, this area was the only real area that we had like invested time in scouting. And now there's naked men walking around in the woods. It's, you know, day four or five. I can't even remember at this point, but so said individual just walked that direction of all this, like the area that we hadn't really like spent any time in, like hunting since we'd been down there. But, you know, we had scouted it and, you know, dropped some pins and stuff over there. And I'm just shaking my head with like, I went to bed last night thinking this is going to be the greatest day because I was covered up in bucks, the night before. And that afternoon, there's a naked man in the creek, like 3 miles back in the spot where I thought I was going to be successful. And that kind of brought the reality of not hunting, you know, public land for, you know, quite some time. I'd been blessed to hunt that private spot that I hunt where, you know, I hadn't even, at that point, I hadn't even been like scouting like public land around me. And in the off season, I spent all my time trying to pick apart and learn and, you know, figure out that private piece I was hunting. Mm-hmm. So the only time I had been investing, you know, scouting and hunting public land was where I am now in Indiana, trying to figure out
with Naked Creek Man,
going to find deer and what I'm going to do about Naked Creek Man.
I got to throw this out there. If Naked Creek Man listens to this podcast, I'd like you to reach out to me. I'd like to interview you as well, sir. I don't know what the chances are of that, but I would like to find out what you were doing.
Yeah, I was not mad at said Naked Creek Man. I was like, this is the icing on the cake of like how poorly things are continuing to go for me in my efforts to be successful and fill.
There's about 500 things that you could have had me guess from that happened to you while hunting Indiana public, and never in 100,000 years would I have chosen Naked Creek Man. Or maybe I would have, because it was the most obscure thing on the list. But if you gave me 500 things that happened to you in Indiana, right off the bat, I don't think I would have chosen Naked Creek Man as the winner.
Yeah. Like I said, that's why I took a picture, because I knew nobody was going to believe it. So
unbelievable.
So a couple days later, we had like 2 days left. One of my buddies I was down there with ended up shooting like a little forkhorn. He got busted by a pretty good deer moments prior to that, and while he was at full draw, he decided he was going to shoot the little one. not judging anybody there. You know what I mean? Shoot what makes you happy.
Yep.
But we end up having to spend the majority of our night figuring out how to get that deer out.
Oh, baby.
From these, the bottom of the 900 foot cliff. And it took 3 of us and all of our equipment a very long time to get that deer out. And I think we had like 2 more full days after that. Well, we hunted the next morning and the next afternoon, and then we ended up leaving the next day. We hunted that morning and then pulled our stuff, all of our cameras and the 2 stands that we had out there at the time, and packed her up and went home. And that put a very, very, very bad taste in my mouth.
I can only imagine.
Like, to the point where, like, I feel terrible, saying this now, but, just being 100% transparent, like, I was, like, essentially irritated that, my buddy shot that little fucking deer, because we now had to drag it out of an area that, like, I was planning on hunting. Like,
I mean, that makes sense.
How selfish of me to, like, be irritated about that. And, like, I wasn't irritated at the time. It was like the next morning where I was like, God, I really want to be over there. But we just drug a deer out for 3.5, 4 hours the night before. Like, I was just, and then I'm thinking to myself, like, why are you being like this? And that's where, like, the pressure of, like, what I was trying to do, what I was trying to accomplish, my love for this, and how much I spoke about it to other people, like, I essentially put all this pressure on myself to perform, and, like, now it's like ruining it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a damn shame.
It was super frustrating. So ending 2021, my 3rd year in a row of eating a tag, and now I just ate a $250 non-resident tag to top it off. And so that's when I really started, like, diving into shit. I started listening to podcasts more for not just background music, like, to learn something too.
Yeah.
To really start, like, putting puzzle pieces together. Like, I started, like, legit taking, like, actual notes, like, in my phone, like, here are some goals, and then here are some things that are going to help you achieve them. You know what I mean? Like, just little notes, and, like, just writing down key points. Like, if I heard something in a podcast, I'd pause it. Sure. And, write it down on my phone. Like, have some notes. And then I remember going into the 2022 season, like, looking back at those, like, multiple times, like, that summer and going into that fall, like, checking off the things that I had done, made notes of, like, to get done in the off season, like, scouting wise. And, like, I started scouting a bunch of public with my buddy, and breaking stuff down and making sense of the things that I was writing down during, listening to these podcasts and, other discussions just with anybody deer wise. And I felt like I took a huge step in the amount of, like, instead of just absorbing all of this stuff and, like, oh, I've been listening to podcasts and all this information, like, it's in there somewhere. It all just makes sense at some point. I was applying things that I had listened to, wrote down, and, like, putting it into play once that season came around. And, I was fairly confident that, I had actually learned and absorbed that knowledge instead of just in one year out the other. Mm-hmm. And were you able to take all that stuff that you learned, put it into practice, and then find success in 2022? In 2022, I did finally find some good success. I ended up actually killing my biggest deer to date. After I once again found myself munching on my Indiana public land tag for the 2nd year in a row. Hey man, I've eaten 2 Kansas tags, so that soup is delicious, and I'm probably going to eat it again sometime. But I was furious. So the day we got back, I was so frustrated. Like, that year we just didn't really see shit. Like, I don't know what we were doing wrong. There's too many naked dudes in the woods. That's the problem. Yeah, that guy must have been back out there. Him and his pals. Yeah, brought more with him. Yeah. So, that year we went down to Indiana, hunted the same spot. We actually camped there in that parking area that we used to access last year. And just saw a couple good bucks, but like nothing in range, and like just very few deer in general. So then we left, and I remember just thinking that whole way home, like, dude, I cannot do this again. Like, we got to figure this out. So I literally, mind you, I have 2 children at this point. I went straight from where I got my buddy's house, where we met before we went down to Indiana. And I went straight from there with the trailer full of all my shit and a full tummy from eating that Indiana tag again. Went straight to the farm I hunt.
Nice.
And I'm like, we're figuring this out. Like, I'm killing a deer. You know what I mean? At this point, like, I was furious. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm putting in so much time, effort. At this point, money. You know, I had sold my heart and soul, and you know, the rights to every part of my life for some mobile hunting gear. In 2021, I ended up buying Lone Wolf custom gear, 1.0 and 0.5 and sticks and everything else that I thought was going to save my life to help me be successful. But don't get me wrong, having the right mobile equipment is key. You know what I mean?
I could not possibly agree anymore. Yep.
My system's pretty dialed in that aspect now. You know what I mean? Of just having the right equipment to give yourself an opportunity. So I go essentially right from Indiana, right to my farm. Haven't even seen my wife or kids in, you know, going on 6 days. But something told me, like, dude, you need to just figure this out. Well, I still had like another like half, like I didn't go back to work for like almost another week. And I went straight to the farm, and I was like, all right, I know where I want to be, because, you know, of course, the whole time I'm in Indiana, my fucking trail cameras are blowing up. Hell yeah, I know. You know, I'm getting some good deer, on camera back at home, and I'm not seeing shit in Indiana. So I went there. I hung my mobile set in the tree for the next morning. So I could just go and hunt, and I could just get in a tree in the morning, not have to fiddle around. And I wanted to like scout like a little piece of, you know, the property while we were there. I go get that all hung up. I don't hunt that evening. I go home. My dog had actually had to get surgery that day. So I went and hung my stand quick and got home to go with my wife and kids to pick up my dog. And the next morning I was hunting. So this was right around Halloween too. This was that was October 28th, the day I got back. So roll into October 29th. The next day I hunt that morning, I hunt that stand. Don't see a fucking deer. And I'm like, dude, this spot was hot the entire week. Like, okay, maybe I'm an idiot because I pre-hung it, you know, in the middle of the day before. But I got in and out of there, and I checked another trail camera on the other side of the property on the fence line while I was walking out. Like, there's a tree line walking out. Like, they couldn't have done too much damage. Either way, deer aren't here. I'm going to go fucking find them. Can't hunt that night because it's the Michigan State game. I've been gone for I don't know how many days. Yeah. Like, my wife and kids, you know, need to see me. I need to see them, you know.
Totally understand that too.
Whatever your little hunting pity party is, you know, is going to end. So yeah, I pull my stand down. I was like, I'm going to go check out this section over here. Like, this is where I need to be. We're going to go tear it apart. I'm going to hang my stand. I'm going to go home. I'm going to spend some time with my family. I'm going to refresh, recharge, not going to talk about hunting, not think about hunting, and spend time with my family. Well, this was probably like 10:30 when I got down, and I go over and I'm checking out this area. I'm like, all right, this is where I need to be. I pick out a tree. I start hanging up my stand. I get 2 sticks on the tree, and I'm grabbing the strap for my other 2 sticks out of my bag. And I hear something. I look up, and like 5 yards from me is a 6-point with his tongue hanging out of his mouth. Just, you know, not running, but like fast walking down, like heading down this hill. Mm-hmm. And looks right at me and just doesn't even care. Like he just got his ass kicked. Yeah. And like, I didn't heard anything or, you know, any commotion or anything up there. Like, I was doing my best to be quiet and just hang my shit, get out of there. And then like 2 minutes later, a doe comes like running by, and I'm like, dude, what is going on here? Like that deer was like full, he was like full zombie mode with his tongue hanging out. Didn't even care I was there. Like, this is weird. I'm going to throw an arrow in my bow just in case. So I throw an arrow in my bow and go back to hanging my stand. I get my third stick on there, and where this is, it's in like an inside corner. It's on the southwest corner of this property, and it's in this huge corner. There's 2 huge oak trees, and then in front of that is the corner of the cornfield. And I'm like on top of this ridge on the backs on the the backside of this little like corner, and I'm seeing this corn moving, and I'm hearing all this chasing going on in there. I'm like, oh, there's a buck's chasing something around in there. You know what I mean? I heard a couple grunts. So I just sit there for a few minutes, and of course everything quiets down. So I go back to hanging my stand. I get my last stick on and come down the tree, and I'm watching the corn move like probably 35 yards from me. I'm watching the corn move, and whatever's in the corn is coming right towards me. So I pick up my bow. I don't know what told me to like turn on my Tacticam, and I'm watching this corn move, and out pops this buck. Well, I don't know, like my body just must have been on like autopilot, because like I had no idea what was coming towards me. It could have been a person, you know what I mean? But I was already at full draw with my camera running, and once it popped out of the corn, he had his head down immediately. And I just kind of told myself like, all right, well, that tree out in front of you has to be like 25 yards ish. So if whatever pops out, if he pops out right there and it's something you want to shoot, like shoot at. And like I said, I was already full draw with my camera running, and for all we know, this could have been a fucking person. But my body just did it all on its own, and sure enough, picked his head up and stopped right at that tree. Like wind blowing, my wind must have got to him because it was blowing right up. And that's why I was over there. I'm like, oh, I can scout this right now because it's right on the edge of all this bedding, and wind's blowing out into the cornfield. Perfect. And he must have got my wind and stopped right there, and that's where I shot. And it was pretty cool because I got it on camera. It had good audio, but the footage is not the greatest just because of like the sun angle. Like everything's like good close to me, but where he's at is in like a shadow, and like the camera didn't like focus very well. Yeah, because of that light. But so I hit him. I hear him take 2 bounds and nothing. So I'm like, okay, good. Like I must have hit him good, but the sound, it sounded like I completely missed him. Really? And I hit a cornstalk dead on. That's like what I thought happened. Huh. Then I rewatched the film, and I'm like, I telling myself, oh, you smoked him. Like you put it, like he was slight quartering to at, what I thought was 25 yards. Ended up being 28 yards, but I'm like, oh yeah, he smoked. Like I put it right where I had to put it. And so I hadn't even gone and checked my arrow or anything. I had just watched it back on from my camera. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to at least go check for some blood. And I'm looking at the clock too. And this was 12:01. I shot that deer. Huh. 12:01 on October 29th.
Incredible. Right in the middle of the day.
Right in the middle of the day. And so then I call a couple of my buddies. Well, I call my dad. He didn't answer. Turns out he didn't never got my call. But I call like 2 or 3 buddies. They're all out at their farm tracking a deer for their dad. No one can help me. But at this point, I hadn't even went and checked my arrow. Yeah. But send in the video to him. Like, hey, what do you think? Like, do you think this is a good hit? Like, you can't really see my arrow, but based on the shot, the sound, and where I heard the deer crash and hasn't moved since, I'm pretty sure he's toast and he's dead there. But what do you think? And yeah, everybody agreed that hey, he's toast, but give him some time. But at that point, I didn't even went and checked my arrow or anything. Look for blood to see if I hit him. And nobody can help me. Here I am killing deer by myself. Hell finally. Yeah. And no one to help me. So I go up, I check for blood. First blood is 6 foot up the cornstalk. Just shit. I'm like, oh, he's toast. I don't find my arrow at this point, but I find good blood. So I'm like, shit. Well, I go back to where I'd shot. And at this point, I'm tearing my sand and sticks down, going to give him some time. And a buddy drives or texts me, and he lives near the farm that I hunt, and he saw my truck parked in a weird spot. And he's like, are you hunting today? Or does somebody else have the same truck as you? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're normally parked on the west side the east side of the property. And so over on the west side, I was like, yeah, I went over here to just scout some shit. And I went over here to scout some shit, and I end up killing one. So I moved my truck over here to for whenever I can get him out. I don't got to drag it as far. And so he's like, I'm on my way home right now. Do you want help dragging? I'm like, hell yeah. I was like, all right, I'll meet you over here. I got to get my stuff out of here first. And I'll meet you over there. So before I go and meet him, I was like, all right, I'm just going to go, foul first blood for, at least a couple feet into this corn so I can see what I'm doing. And I get like 4 steps in and I find my arrow, but it's only the back half with fletchings, my luminoc. The other, it's broken in half. And I'm like, all right, well, I got good penetration. I got good blood. Like he's got to be toast. I take 2 more steps to like peek through this row of the corn, and I'm looking at the ass of a deer that can barely move, like hobbling away.
Oh,
and look 10 yards from where I'm at, like down this corn, and there's just pile of blood. Oh. Like he had laid down. This is 10 yards from where I shot this deer.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, damn it, I bumped him. But like, he's not doing well. So yeah. My long story short, I back out at that point, meet my buddy. We end up giving it probably like an hour and a half by the time he got there. And we go back in there to get him. And at this point, I have good blood, have a busted arrow. I bumped the deer, and it's probably like closer to 2:00 now. And it's getting hot. So I'm kind of starting to get worried that, okay, well, even if I do find this deer now, like my meat's going to be shit because it's like 75 degrees out.
Yeah.
It was like 20 this morning. So we ended up finding good blood. The deer only ended up going like another 30, 40 yards, probably down this, the line of corn.
Mm-hmm.
And we get up to him and he's still alive. So we're giving him time, and we kind of just back off from him a little bit, but he keeps trying to get up. But I mean, he's just pumping blood out of him. Like I hit him good. I hit him like it went in middle of ribs on a quartering. He was quartering 2. So middle ribs. And I'm assuming just like I end up catching, the top of the entrance lung, liver, and then like completely shattering like his whole entire back leg.
Oh my
like his
God.
whole back hip was just shattered.
Wow.
But yeah, he was still alive when we found him. Ended up having to put another arrow in him. And when I did, he turned and it like skipped off of his like shoulder.
Oh my God.
And like hits him in the neck. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I felt, like miserable.
It's a terrible feeling to have to do that. Been there.
Like I should have just like walked away and just gave him his time. But, I was also worried that he's going to get up and run through this corn, and I'm never going to find him in this corn.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And it's getting warmer.
And it's getting warmer. Like I can just put another shot into him.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did, he like moved his leg and it just skipped right off the shoulder blade. And yeah, I ended up hitting him in the neck, but it was done quickly after that.
Yeah. Got that artery. Was this your best buck to date?
To date, yes.
Nice.
He went, not that it matters, but
I'm always curious what they go.
He grossed 115 and 2 weights, and I think netted 110 and something.
Okay.
So
nice.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it was really cool to finally fill a tag.
Hell yeah. Such a good feeling.
After so I mean, looking back at that, like I hadn't filled a tag in October for 5 years at that point. I hadn't filled a tag in 3.
There's a point at which you go so long without harvesting a deer or making multiple mistakes, because I've been there, and if you hunt long enough, you make these mistakes where not only do you make one, you make multiple, and then you start to question, man, can I even do this?
Yeah,
not can I get on deer? Can I get on a deer and then execute all the things that all summer long felt natural? Can I do it in the heat of the moment? Because you make so many little things happen. It's not even you per se. Things happen, and you're like, man, I don't know if this is even for me anymore. Maybe I do. Yeah, it's brutal, man.
Picture perfect of like where I was at. I was questioning like why I even do this. You know what I mean? And it was pretty frustrating, but like I just kept reminding myself, like, dude, like you love this. The people you surround yourself with now love this.
Yep.
Like my kids, you know, they're excited about, you know, watching their dad kill deer.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? I've shown them, I watched the videos with them. And like I said, they share a common excitement for it, at least right now. And
that's awesome.
It's definitely a good thing.
That's so important to get the younger ones involved and included. And when they show like that excitement, keeping them engaged. Like my kids, I thought my son was going to be excited about it, and he was at first. And then he shot a deer, and then I think it turned him off a little bit. And so I'm just not going to push until he asks about it. I think he saw death and didn't like it. And so I'm just going to kind of play it by ear, and he'll tell me when he's ready. Like he'll shoot his bow in the yard and he'll get good at it, but he won't hunt with me. And that's okay. He will when he's ready, if he ever gets to that point. Because I don't ever want to push it.
That's kind of looking forward to that opportunity. Like with my kids, like, you know, they love, you know, touching, holding, seeing, you know, the deer I bring home and stuff. But like, how will they feel, or how will they react, or do like when the first animal, you know, they get to be a part of either watch, like sitting with me while I kill a deer or turkey, or like how they'll feel when they do it. You know what I mean? They might just love sitting with me, watching me do it, but when they do it, they don't like it. You know, we'll see. I'm hoping, you know, that they'll be involved in it, but you never know. And just like you're doing, you can't force them to.
It was a weird thing. Like when I watched him not even want to touch it, I was like, something's off here. I don't think he liked the fact that he did this. And I tried to encourage him, like, hey man, that's food that's going to feed our family. Like you are helping to feed our family, and that's huge. And I think it was him knowing that he killed that deer. I think he didn't like it. And I just had to read that body language. I could definitely tell something was up. Yeah. But like, so when you think about 2024 and going into this season, do you have goals that you set for yourself?
Like for this
season,
upcoming season?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess as we've discussed, I've not been able to fill a non-resident deer tag. We're switching things up a little bit this year. I'm going with a different group of people. A different buddy actually invited me to go out to Illinois.
Okay, nice.
So it's going to be my first time out there.
Cool.
At this point, like we haven't even like applied for like whatever like WMA or whatever I don't know many details on like the whole like how we're doing it yet, but apparently there's this section that you can apply for like a tag to hunt.
Oh, okay.
I don't know many details on it. So we're going to apply for that and then see who gets it, who doesn't, and then kind of adjust.
Cool.
From there. The group that we're going with, my buddies never went there with them. Yeah, this is actually, I believe it's going to be his first, out of state hunt.
That's exciting.
So, but the group of guys that like invited him and then they invited me, they've been going there for years and have had some pretty good success out there. So, I'm just kind of going to be confident in it. I don't know if once we narrow down where we're going, if I'll, make a last minute, like day or two trip out there to maybe get some boots on the ground to check it out, or if I'll just kind of, keep focusing on, putting boots on the ground here in my state and then apply those things that I'm seeing, learning, and, what I'm trying to do here and apply that to with what I got out there this year. So
will that be your only out of state hunting this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
I think we're going to go, what is it? Like the 5th through the 12th or something like that
of October or November?
Of November. Sorry.
Oh, nice. That's a pretty sweet time, man. I will tell you that last year, the weather front that came in on Halloween, that time of year in Illinois was banging. Oh, baby.
And that's what I'm hoping. I guess rolling back to your question about my goals for this year, I guess my goal is to kill a decent buck here in Michigan in October. and then hopefully be able to ride that high to an out of state place where I've never hunted before, and make something happen, and be able to come home and kill another good one here in Michigan.
Hell yeah.
I want to kill. I keep telling my buddies that I'm in triple double. So $3 in 2 states.
Ooh, I like it.
I'm hoping I'll be able to do that. That's my long-term goal for this year, I guess. But
I look forward to following along. We share a similar goal. I have not been successful in shooting a buck in October. I've shot 1 buck in October ever. And so I'd like to shoot another buck in October this year. And like I said, I love October. I've just always found success in November and December. So I'd like to fix that. So I look forward to following along on your journey. Do you have, I know you said you filmed your hunt. Do you have like a YouTube channel where you like put stuff?
I don't.
No.
That was just off of a Tacticam.
Yeah.
The bow mounted Tacticam thing. I'm actually trying to dabble in some filming some of my hunts this year. I haven't decided on camera like my main camera yet. What I'm going to do with that, because looking at that, it's kind of either you go all in from what I'm seeing, you go all in and get something super expensive, or you kind of just get your feet wet with it. So I think I might just try a GoPro and like a cheaper like handy camera or something, or I guess not cheaper but affordable handy cam to maybe just see. I might do it and I might hate it. So,
you might. I was just gonna say, don't drop $1,000 like I did and hate it, because then you got to resell it and you ain't getting $1,000 out of that thing. So,
and like I'm kind of also to the point where it's like, all right, I've finally been successful 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
First time in a long time, I actually killed a decent little buck this year from the ground again.
Nice.
For some reason, as soon as I bought these mobile stands, I've only been able to kill them from the ground when they're either on my back or sitting right next to me. But that's here nor there. But my other thing is I don't want to get distracted with, now I'm gonna get killing deer on camera, where I forget where I came from. Like
100%.
Stay focused on like why you're there. Like my goal is to like get a plan, put it together, and execute it and kill a deer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have a sinking feeling or fear in my stomach, I guess, that if I do go full steam into trying to catch cool shit on camera, I'm going to be super distracted with that. And it'll
consume you.
Yeah.
Just make sure you keep having fun.
Right. And yeah, that's what I was going to add was I don't want to forget why I do this.
Yeah.
And the real reason.
That's it, man. That's the biggest thing right there. Keep having fun. Even if you go head first, 100 miles an hour into self-filming, just enjoy it. Good, bad, and the ugly, man. Just enjoy it, because don't get caught up in that shit trying to like, I got to get all this B-roll. And then before you know it, you got to edit it all. And then before you know it, you got a whole entire season's worth of shit to edit. And you're like, fuck this, man. No one cares anyway. Then you're like, why did I film all this shit? And it sounds almost like maybe that's me.
That's like my biggest regret. Like since I got into this was I got so consumed with like, I have to kill a big deer. Otherwise, like I'm not going to be accepted. Like nobody wants to kill like little deer. And why that, like I spent 3 years of not killing shit because I was worried about, like I can't post that deer on my Instagram or whatever. It was just like a piss poor mentality. And then I finally hit that like rock bottom to where I'm like, all right, what are you doing wrong? Why are you like refocus, write some goals down, find a truthful drive to like, why are you doing this? Like I felt like I was spending so much time trying to be somebody that I wasn't, that it definitely was a reason why for 3 years I didn't find any success.
I've talked to a lot of people about that exact thing right there, and I'm super happy to hear that you were able to come to that realization and get past it. That's awesome. I
feel like I'm not putting all this work in anymore, just going through the motions. Like it's purpose driven. I put on countless miles. This year shed hunting, scouting these certain things. Like looking back at notes that I've made to like, all right, after the season, go check out this area, figure out why the deer were moving in there or why the deer were there, and figuring out what part of the season I need to like be there and hunt it. for this year, looking back at trail camera pictures, like I just went through like thousands of trail camera pictures the other day and kind of noticed like a pattern from that, like October 25th, like through November 4th, like that's when I have to be there. Like
Absolutely.
those are like, if I can't hunt any part of October next year for some reason, like if say I break my leg, like either cut it off or heal by October 25th, because that's when I need to be there. Just little things like that to make some keynotes of what I'm going to do for this year. So I'm hoping to, continue to grow and expand the amount of knowledge I have. I've been scouting a bunch of public again, and in hopes of not over hunting this farm this year. I think what I'm going to do is like, I scout all this public, like the last 2 or 3 years. I've scouted all this public in the off season. I've hunted it, and then I'll go hunt it once or twice because I get distracted by some trail camera pictures.
Yep.
So my goal is to not hunt my cameras, hunt public early, give the farm a break, and like hunt when I am supposed to, not because I want to, because my children are getting, they're getting to the point where they want to do, like they want to do certain things. You know what I mean? They want dad home to, not saying I ever like threw them on the back burner, but like,
dude, when you're 1.5 years old, we ain't going bowling. You're 1.5.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're showing interest in.
I said bowling because I'm going bowling today. That's why.
No.
That's why it's on top of mind. Because I have a 13, a 10, and a 5. So there is a lot of, hey man, like my oldest daughter, she doesn't want to do anything. She can probably hear me talking. She doesn't ever want to do anything. My 10-year-old son, travel hockey. My 5-year-old daughter, she's like, I want to play hockey like Bubba. So now I might have 2 hockey. So I totally know what you're saying. There's a point, there's a very small window when they're super little where you're like free, and then you are like all hands on deck for a few years. So I totally get it, man.
So I'm trying to fine tune some stuff so that, I can go be successful in the smaller amounts of time. I really want to figure out how to hunt when I should be hunting and using my time wisely elsewhere when, I should. I don't want to be hunting every single day of the year like I want to. I do.
Yeah.
But
it's not good.
Realistically, I can't. I got to spend more time at home these days when, your kids are smart enough to figure out like, Dad, I want to play. I want to go do this. My daughter comes up to me and asks me to play with her now. It's not me like playing with her because all she can do is roll around on the ground with an oversized head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, dude, we should totally come back like early. Let's say like right before your leg either has been cut off or it's healing. So like right before prime time, I want to hear from you because I'm going to try it too. I want to hear how this, giving your farm a break, maybe hunting a little public land, how it feels for you to live through what your goals are. Because I'm going to try the same thing. I want to compare some notes with you and I on that because I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely spend at least like I don't know if I'll spend opening day of bow season at the farm.
I won't either.
Like I like opening day at bow season is like I don't care if it's 90 freaking degrees. Like
same.
I'm going to be in a tree.
Yep.
So I'm hopefully going to be able to like use what I've found scouting wise, camera wise and whatever else to make a plan to like, go in and like kill something early October.
Hell yeah.
Like I want to get to the point where I can make a educated, dedicated move to kill a deer. Like I want to get to the point where like I can do that. And I'm hoping to be able to like put a pattern on something, worth being early this year. But if not, I'm just going to focus on, scouting instead of hunting.
Yeah.
And, figuring out what I need to do to hunt less and like be present at home more. So
that's what's up. That's perfect.
Going to continue to, tear some public land pieces apart. I'm actually going to meet up with Vince from Chasing Public here.
Oh, nice.
Whenever we get done here, we're going to go tear a section of public apart and see what we can do that way.
That's fun, man. I look forward to hearing how it goes.
Yeah, I will. We'll definitely have to do this again and compare some notes.
Yeah,
like sure. I said, I'm going to try to hopefully be able to enjoy, some public land success here in Michigan and out of state this year. If I had to put one goal down on paper, I would say like that'd be it. Like find success on public land, whether it's here or if it's, out of state this year. But
I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling you're going to make it happen this year.
You're the third person who's told me that, because I've just been bitching about it to a couple of my buddies. Like, dude, like it doesn't really matter. Like I can't build this freaking non-resident tag or like so.
Well, I appreciate your time tonight, man. Curtis, you have shared the most interesting hunting story I have ever heard so far with Naked Creek Man. And although I wanted to name the episode Naked Creek Man, I think I found a better one. I got some things that when they would come out of your mouth, I'd have to grab my pen real quick and write them down. So I've got a couple options here for good titles. But I will tell you, Naked Creek Man takes the cake for best hunting story I've ever heard. So thank you for sharing that with me. And again, we're going to have to do this again, dude. I loved hearing all these stories, and I'm sure we're going to have a bunch more to talk about. So enjoy your public hunting with Vince over there. And again, remind everybody where they can follow along with you on Instagram.
I got Facebook and Instagram. Just Curtis Mercier. No special fancy Instagram handle or anything. Just me.
Well, I appreciate it, Curtis. Enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend, man. Again, thanks for coming on and sharing these great stories with me. And we'll talk soon. Thanks everybody for listening. You got any final shout outs you want to send out there into the universe?
Yes. I guess shout out to my wife for continuing to support me, my dreams, and our children while I get to go do my thing. I really appreciate that. A lot of my friends give me very large amounts of shit because I always get to do what I want and they can't. And my wife is very supportive of me and my dear dreams.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Mercier, on behalf of Angel Road Outdoors. We appreciate it as well. All right. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. Later.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Don't worry about video or anything. I just didn't know if you wanted to.
It's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
So typically, I just went upstairs and told my kids to turn the damn television off because it's all Wi-Fi. The only time I will typically turn it off is if the Wi-Fi signal is weak, or if you are extremely disheveled and you don't want me to see you. It's totally your call.
Yeah, I'm good with video if it makes it easier for you.
So I'll be honest, I'll be able to read your cues, like your facial cues, to not interrupt you.
Okay. Yeah,
if it's helpful.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. What do I do here? Hello?
There, perfect.
There we go.
Nice. Hi.
What's going on?
How you doing?
Good, man.
Good.
Doing well.
Just so you know, I am recording. And I always tell everybody, you never know when you're going to get a really good nugget right off the bat. So if there's something you say, if you get incredibly racist right off the bat, I can edit it out. No problem. I'll cut it right out. But typically, I'll just record everything.
Cool.
Have you ever recorded a podcast before?
I have not.
So one thing that happens when you don't do, like if I can't see you, I'll step on you while you're still talking. And that's why, like, if I can see that you're about to say something, I'll shut up. And so that's what's awesome about, like, doing it here in the basement and, like, being able to see you. Whereas if it's just a black square with a letter C on it, sometimes it can be annoying to the listener. So that's the only reason I said that.
Yeah, I've heard that in a few where it seems like, especially the ones where they got 2 or 3 guys talking to each other. One of them's a syllable here, and the other one's like, "Oh, I was trying to wrap that up still."
Or they're like, "No, you go. No, you go. No, you go."
Yeah,
there's a lot of that. So I'll try to avoid that today. Again, if for some reason the connection gets bad, I may not say anything. You might just see me turn my video off, and it may not even be you. It might just be me. So don't sweat it. I'm not recording video at all. It's just audio. I'm not ready. I want to do video, but I'm not mentally ready for the process by which I have to edit. So
yeah, I hear you there.
This is just going to be like a conversation, man. Like, I want to know who you are. We'll talk about hunting, but also who you are. So, don't stress about it. If you feel uncomfortable, if there's long pauses, again, don't sweat it, man. We're just having a conversation. So no pressure. Just want to get to know you better.
Cool.
All right. Well, if you're ready, I'll shut up for a couple seconds and then I'll do a quick introduction and then introduce you. You good?
Okay. Yeah. Is your sound sound good?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if you needed me to throw in a pair of headphones or something.
No, it's honestly, it sounds exactly like, as long as you can hear me, okay, it sounds exactly like a Zoom conversation. So We're good. Again, I would have loved to have you come over, but it's a long drive, man.
Yes.
Another time, if you're in the area, it's fine.
Wheel bearings on my truck.
Oh, yeah.
I replaced my whole exhaust from my trip to Indiana this year, so she's running true now.
Well, my truck just started to make noise. Like in the winter, the dude at the oil change place is like, you're going to need to get your brakes replaced pretty soon. Like, oh, thank you for the heads up, sir. I didn't ask. Well, it just started to make noise, and I'm like, damn it. He was right, and I waited. So now it's probably going to be more expensive. But anyway, all right, give me a second to be quiet, and then just so I know, like, am I recording, where to cut it, and then I'll start the introduction.
Okay.
And how do you say your last name?
Mercier.
That's what I would have said. I'm a fucking genius.
You are.